I stood at my sister Sarah's back door on Thanksgiving, balancing the homemade pumpkin pie I'd spent hours perfecting. Through the window, I watched my family laughing around the dining table. Sarah opened the door halfway. "Use the back entrance," she said coldly. "The front door is for real guests." My stomach dropped. After 28 years as her sister, I wasn't even considered a guest. I stepped into their kitchen alone while the sounds of celebration echoed from the other room. Then the front door opened. The November air had been crisp against my face as I'd walked up the driveway to my sister's house, but nothing compared to the chill that swept through me at her words. I stood there in the kitchen, placing my pie on the counter while laughter and conversation drifted from the dining room where my entire family had gathered without me. My name is Lynette, and at 28 years old, I'd somehow become the family pariah. It hadn't always been this way. Growing up, Sarah Thomas and I had been close, or at least I'd thought we were. Everything changed 5 years ago when our mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. While Sarah was busy climbing the social ladder with her new husband Marcus, and Thomas was establishing himself in the corporate world, I made the choice that would apparently define me forever. In their eyes, I dropped out of my senior year of college to care for Mom. "Someone needs to be there," I'd said during that family meeting that felt like a lifetime ago. Sarah had pursed her lips, mentally calculating the cost. Thomas had checked his phone repeatedly, anxious to get back to his important meetings. Neither of them had volunteered, so I moved back home, spent my days managing medications and doctor appointments, my nights holding our mother's hand through the pain. After Mom passed 2 years later, I thought maybe we could rebuild our relationship. I was wrong. To them, I'd become the college dropout, the one with no ambition, the sister who'd thrown her life away. When my engagement to James fell apart last year, Sarah had actually smirked. "Well, what did you expect?" she'd said. "What successful man wants to marry someone with no education and no career?" Now I stood in her kitchen, the family failure relegated to eating alone while they celebrated in the next room. Through the doorway, I could see the elaborate spread Sarah had prepared, or more likely had catered. The dining room of her new $2 million house sparkled with crystal and fine china. She never missed an opportunity to mention the price of things as if cost equaled worth. "Pass the stuffing to Uncle Robert," I heard Sarah's voice carry. "It's from that exclusive organic market downtown. $40 a pound, but Marcus insists on only the best." My stomach turned, though not from hunger. I pulled out a kitchen stool and sat down with the plate Sarah had hastily prepared for me, some turkey, a scoop of mashed potatoes, nothing more. The festive feast 20 feet away might as well have been in another country. Lynette actually showed up. Thomas's voice drifted through. "Saw her car outside. That old Honda's still running?" "Barely," Sarah laughed. "Did you see what she was wearing? The same dress from Mom's funeral. 3 years and she can't even buy new clothes." "Maybe if she'd finished school like a normal person," Marcus added, his deep voice carrying that particular tone of smugness I'd grown to despise. "But some people are just destined to struggle. It's actually sad." I gripped my fork tighter, forcing myself to take small bites. They had no idea about my life now, because they never asked. Every family gathering followed the same script. They talked about their successes, their acquisitions, their important friends, while I became background noise, someone to compare themselves against, to feel superior. "Remember when she thought she could start that little business?" Thomas chuckled. "What was it again? Something with computers." "Medical software," Sarah corrected. "As if someone without a degree could break into tech. She probably answers phones at some clinic now." My nephew William's voice piped up. "Can Aunt Lynette eat with us? I want to show her my new Lego set." "Not now, sweetie." Sarah's tone shifted to fake sweetness. "Aunt Lynette prefers eating alone. She's different from us." Different. That was one way to put it. I preferred to think I'd maintained something they'd lost along the way, basic human decency. The doorbell suddenly rang, cutting through their laughter. I heard Sarah's chair scrape back abruptly. Who could that be? She muttered, stress evident in her voice. Everyone's already here. Maybe it's carolers, Marcus suggested, though we all knew it was too early in the season for that. Sarah's heels clicked across the hardwood floor. I heard the front door open, then silence. Complete deafening silence that stretched too long to be comfortable. Mr. Harrison, Sarah's voice came out, strained, artificially bright. What a surprise! We weren't expecting you today. Weren't you? A cultured male voice responded. I thought I was quite clear in my letter about collecting the November payment, and October's, and September's. My hand froze halfway to my mouth. Payment. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Through the kitchen doorway, I watched Sarah's back stiffen. Marcus handles all that, she said quickly. Let me just get him. Would you mind waiting outside? We have family over. I think I'll come in, Mr. Harrison said firmly. We need to discuss your situation, and I'd prefer not to do it on the doorstep. Sarah had no choice but to step aside. The man who entered looked to be in his early 60s with silver hair and wearing an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. His presence immediately commanded the room. The dining room fell silent as everyone registered the uninvited guest. I do apologize for interrupting your holiday, Mr. Harrison said, though his tone suggested he wasn't sorry at all. But 3 months of missed payments require attention regardless of the calendar. Marcus stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. Harrison, let's discuss this in my study. Your study? Mr. Harrison's eyebrow arched. I believe you mean my study in my house, which you're currently 3 months behind in renting. The silence that followed could have been carved with a knife. My perfect sister with her perfect house in her perfect life had just been exposed as a fraud. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of second-hand embarrassment for her. That's when Mr. Harrison's gaze swept the room and landed on me through the kitchen doorway. His professional composure cracked, replaced by something I couldn't quite identify. Surprise recognition. He walked past the frozen tableau of my family, heading straight for the kitchen, Sarah trailing behind him, sputtering protests. I'm sorry, that's just the help, she said desperately. The kitchen staff, she was just leaving. Mr. Harrison ignored her completely, his eyes fixed on my face with growing certainty. When he reached the doorway, a warm smile spread across his distinguished features. Lynette, he asked, his voice now gentle, almost reverent. Lynette Morgan. Is that really you? Before I could respond, Mr. Harrison crossed the kitchen in 3 quick strides and pulled me into an embrace that left me speechless. The scent of expensive cologne and wool enveloped me as this distinguished stranger held me like a long-lost relative. My dear girl, he said, pulling back to look at my face, his hands warm on my shoulders. I can't believe it's really you, after all this time. Behind him, Sarah stood frozen in the doorway, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. The entire dining room had gone silent, everyone craning their necks to witness this unexpected scene. I'm sorry, I managed completely bewildered. Have we met? Mr. Harrison's face softened. You don't remember me, of course. Why would you? You were focused on saving my daughter's life. The memory hit me like a physical force. 3 years ago, the rainy night on Highway 91, the overturned silver Mercedes, the young woman trapped inside bleeding and terrified. I breathed. Emma Harrison. Yes. He nodded, his eyes growing misty. My Emma. The doctors said if you hadn't stopped, if you hadn't known exactly how to position her neck, how to stop the bleeding while waiting for the ambulance, she would have died that night. The accident. I'd been driving home from one of Mom's late-night emergency room visits when I'd seen the fresh skid marks veering off the road. No other cars had stopped yet. The girl inside had been conscious but badly hurt, crying for her father. I'd stayed with her for over an hour, using my jacket to stop the worst bleeding, talking to her about anything and everything to keep her alert until help arrived. How is Emma? I asked, genuinely concerned. I'd thought about her often, but had slipped away once the paramedics took over, never leaving my contact information. Thriving. Mr. Harrison beamed. Thanks to you, she finished medical school last year. She's a surgeon now, following in her mother's footsteps. She specializes in trauma surgery because, in her words, she wants to give others the same chance a stranger gave her. That's wonderful, I said, feeling genuine warmth spread through my chest. It was strange how a single moment could ripple outward like that. Mr. Harrison's expression shifted as he took in my surroundings, the plain plate of food, the empty kitchen, the sounds of family celebration in the next room that clearly didn't include me. His brow furrowed. Forgive me, but I'm confused, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Why are you eating alone in the kitchen? Surely you should be at the table with your family. Sarah finally found her voice. Oh, Lynette prefers it this way. She's more comfortable in here, aren't you, Lynette? The lie was so brazen I almost admired it. I opened my mouth to agree to play along as I always did, but Mr. Harrison held up his hand. Young lady, he said, turning to face Sarah with the kind of authority that comes from decades of boardrooms and business deals. I've spent my career reading people. Your sister no more prefers eating alone in the kitchen than I prefer chasing down delinquent tenants on Thanksgiving. He paused meaningfully. Yet here we both are. Marcus appeared in the doorway, trying to salvage the situation with his salesman's smile. Mr. Harrison, clearly there's been a misunderstanding. Lynette was just finishing up. Why don't we adjourn to my office to discuss the rental situation? Your office? Mr. Harrison repeated, that dangerous eyebrow arching again. Mr. Wellington, nothing in this house is yours. You rent it. Or rather, you did until you stopped paying 3 months ago. Thomas materialized behind Marcus, ever the corporate mediator. I'm sure we can resolve this professionally. My brother-in-law's business has been expanding rapidly, a temporary cash flow situation. Is that so? Mr. Harrison pulled out his phone, scrolling through something interesting, because according to public records, Wellington Development hasn't filed a single new permit in 8 months. No new projects, no expansions, just a string of liens and delayed payments. The color drained from Marcus's face. Sarah gripped the doorframe like it might hold her upright. But please, Mr. Harrison continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Tell me more about this rapid expansion while your rent checks bounce and you regulate family members to eat in the kitchen like Victorian-era servants. He turned back to me, his expression softening instantly. Lynette, would you do me the honor of joining us at the dining table? I find myself in need of reasonable company. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to refuse to maintain the status quo to avoid the confrontation that would surely follow. But something in his eyes, a mixture of respect and righteous indignation on my behalf, made me set down my fork. I'd be happy to, I said quietly. Sarah actually stepped in front of me. That's not necessary. She was just leaving. Weren't you, Lynette? You have that thing. What thing? I asked, meeting her gaze directly for the first time in months. You know, she said, her eyes pleading and threatening simultaneously, that important thing you mentioned. I mentioned nothing, I replied calmly, because you haven't actually spoken to me since I arrived. You handed me a plate and pointed to the kitchen. Mr. Harrison made a sound that might have been approval. Shall we? He offered me his arm like we were at a formal event, rather than a family disaster in the making. I took it, letting him escort me into the dining room where my extended family sat frozen like a tableau. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all staring as if I'd grown a second head. Mr. Harrison pulled out the empty chair next to my nephew William, who beamed at me. Aunt Lynette, he exclaimed, now you can see my Lego set. In a moment, sweetheart, I said, ruffling his hair as I sat down. Mr. Harrison remained standing, surveying the table like a general reviewing troops. Well, this is lovely, a proper family gathering. Though I must say I'm curious about the family dynamic that puts some members at the main table and others in the kitchen. Uncle Robert, always one to avoid conflict, cleared his throat. Family matters can be complicated. Indeed, they can, Mr. Harrison agreed. Though I find cruelty is rarely complicated. It's usually quite simple. Those with power exercising it over those they perceive as powerless. His gaze fixed on Sarah. Wouldn't you agree, Mrs. Wellington? Sarah's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her flush. I don't know what Lynette told you, but she's always been dramatic, making herself into a victim. She told me nothing, Mr. Harrison said simply. She didn't need to. The fact that she saved my daughter's life and never even mentioned it to her own family tells me everything about her character, and yours. She saved someone's life. Cousin Janet leaned forward, suddenly interested. Lynette, 3 years ago, Mr. Harrison confirmed, stopped at an accident scene in a storm, stayed with Emma for over an hour, kept her stable until paramedics arrived, left before anyone could even thank her properly. We tried to find her for months. All eyes turned to me. I shifted uncomfortably under the scrutiny. Anyone would have done the same. No, Mr. Harrison said firmly, they wouldn't. 12 cars passed that accident scene before you stopped. The police reports confirmed it. You were the only one who thought a stranger's life was worth getting wet and muddy for. Why didn't you tell us? Aunt Patricia asked, seeming genuinely puzzled. I almost laughed. When during the 5 minutes I'm usually allowed at family gatherings before being dismissed. Or should I have interrupted one of Sarah's monologues about her marble countertops? William tugged on my sleeve. You're a hero, Aunt Lynette. No, sweetie, I said gently. I just did what was right. Oh, speaking of doing what's right, Mr. Harrison said, his tone shifting back to business. We need to discuss your living situation, Mr. and Mrs. Wellington, but I have one condition. He looked directly at me. Lynette participates in the conversation as a neutral mediator. Sarah's face went through several expressions before landing on forced pleasantness. Of course. If Lynette wants to help, we'd be grateful. The lie was so transparent that William actually giggled. Children always know when adults are being fake. Mr. Harrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Excellent. But first, Lynette, you haven't eaten properly. Please enjoy the meal. We have time. He pulled out his phone again. In fact, while we're waiting, perhaps you could help me with something. Emma's been trying to reach the woman who saved her for 3 years. She'll be thrilled to know I've found you. May I tell her? I nodded, touched by the thought that the young woman had remembered me. Wonderful, he said, typing quickly. His phone buzzed almost immediately. She says she's 30 minutes away and begging to come meet you. I hope that's acceptable. A text notification read aloud accidentally as Mr. Harrison fumbled with his phone. The Lynette. The one from the accident, don't let her leave. I'm bringing the whole team. This is the woman who inspired my entire career. Mr. Harrison chuckled, slightly embarrassed. She's rather enthusiastic. The whole team, Marcus asked weakly. Emma's surgical team from the hospital. Apparently, she tells your sister's story to inspire them during difficult cases. The woman who stopped in a storm to save a stranger. He looked at me with unmistakable admiration. She never knew your name until now. The dining room fell into an uncomfortable silence as I finally began to eat from a proper plate that Mr. Harrison had insisted Sarah prepare for me. The turkey was dry, the stuffing over-seasoned, but I barely noticed. My mind was reeling from the unexpected turn of events. So? Mr. Harrison said, conversationally settling into the chair Marcus had vacated in his nervous pacing. This is quite a lovely home. I remember being impressed when you first applied to rent it 2 years ago. The references, the financial statements, all very compelling. Sarah's fork clattered against her plate. We've just had some temporary setbacks. Temporary, Mr. Harrison mused. 3 months of missed payments feels more than temporary, wouldn't you say? Marcus's business is expanding, Sarah insisted, her voice climbing higher. Tell him, Marcus. Marcus, who had been standing near the china cabinet like he might bolt at any moment, straightened his tie nervously. Of course, Wellington Development is on the verge of several major deals. Is that so? Mr. Harrison pulled out a leather portfolio from his jacket. Because when my property management team did their due diligence after the first missed payment, they found something rather interesting. Would you like me to share with the family, or would you prefer to? The color that had drained from Marcus's face earlier never returned. If anything, he grew grayer. I don't know what you think you found, he began. Bankruptcy preparations, Mr. Harrison suggested mildly. Dated 2 months ago, your lawyer filed the preliminary paperwork but hasn't completed it. Waiting for one more deal to fall through, I'd imagine. Sarah's head snapped toward her husband. What bankruptcy? Marcus, what is he talking about? It's not what it sounds like, Marcus said weakly. It's strategic. Restructuring. Restructuring, Thomas repeated slowly. His corporate mind was already processing the implications. Marcus, I work for your company. Are you saying Wellington Development is going under? Nobody's going under, Marcus snapped, but his desperation was showing. It's complicated. It's not that complicated, Mr. Harrison corrected. You've been living beyond your means, borrowing against assets you don't have and maintaining a facade of wealth while your business crumbles. Rather textbook, actually. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. You don't know anything about our situation. Don't I? Mr. Harrison flipped through his portfolio. Shall we review what I do know? You're driving leased vehicles you can't afford. This Thanksgiving dinner, according to the catering van I saw leaving as I arrived, cost more than a month's rent. Your children attend private school on scholarships you haven't disclosed to family. Should I continue? Each revelation hit the table like a physical blow. Aunt Patricia gasped. Uncle Robert muttered something about appearances being deceiving. The cousins exchanged meaningful looks. But you told us business was booming, Thomas said, his voice hollow. You said I'd be running the new downtown project by spring. Marcus wouldn't meet his eye. Things changed. When? Thomas demanded. When did things change? Before or after I turned down the offer from Patterson Industries to stay with your company? That's not fair, Marcus started, but Thomas cut him off. Whoa, fair. You let me reject a stable position with real growth potential to stay with a sinking ship. And you knew. You knew and said nothing. Mr. Harrison watched the family drama unfold with the detached interest of someone who'd seen it all before. Then he turned to me. Lynette, I mentioned wanting you as a mediator. Are you willing? I find that in situations like these, having someone with integrity involved helps everyone stay honest. I felt every eye in the room on me. Sarah's gaze was particularly intense, a mixture of humiliation and barely suppressed rage. I'm not sure I'm qualified, I said carefully. Qualified. Mr. Harrison laughed, but not unkindly. My dear, you're the only person at this table who hasn't lied about something tonight. That makes you uniquely qualified in my book. She doesn't understand business, Sarah said desperately. She dropped out of college. To care for your dying mother, Mr. Harrison noted. Yes, I did my research on all of you when you applied to rent. Amazing what people reveal in background checks. Lynette's sacrifice stood out. It wasn't a sacrifice, I said quietly. It was love. William, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. Mommy, why did you lie about having money? Sarah's facade finally cracked. We didn't lie, sweetheart. We just didn't tell everything. That's what lying is, William said with the brutal honesty of childhood. Out of the mouths of babes, Aunt Patricia murmured. Mr. Harrison stood commanding the room's attention. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to discuss your financial situation honestly. All cards on the table. Lynette will help mediate because, frankly, I trust her judgment more than anyone else's here. And then we'll see if there's a path forward that doesn't involve eviction proceedings. Eviction. Sarah's voice cracked. You can't evict us. We have children. It's almost Christmas. And I have a mortgage to pay and property taxes due, Mr. Harrison replied. Your children and Christmas weren't considerations when you decided to skip 3 months of rent to maintain appearances, were they? He turned to me. Lynette, I need to ask you something and I need complete honesty. Are you listed as an emergency contact on their lease application? I frowned, trying to remember. I don't think so. Sarah never asked me to be a reference for anything. Interesting, Mr. Harrison murmured, flipping through pages. Because according to this, you're not only listed as an emergency contact, but also as a financial guarantor. What? The word exploded from me before I could stop it. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Sarah couldn't meet my eyes. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sarah, I said slowly, what did you do? It's not what you think, she said weakly. Then explain it, I demanded, feeling a rare surge of anger. Explain how my name ended up on legal documents I never saw. Marcus jumped in. It was just a formality. The property management company required additional references. We knew you'd help if we asked, so we just, forged my signature, I finished, committed fraud using my identity. Oh, fraud is a strong word, Marcus stammered. It's the correct word, Mr. Harrison said coldly, and it voids your lease entirely. I could have you removed tonight if I chose to pursue this legally. Thomas's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it and his face went white. It's from HR, he said numbly. Effective immediately, all Wellington Development employees are on unpaid leave pending restructuring. What? Marcus grabbed for the phone, but Thomas pulled it away. You sent this during Thanksgiving dinner, Thomas asked, his voice rising. You knew this was coming, and you sent it during dinner. I scheduled it for tomorrow, Marcus said weakly. It must have sent early. So you were going to let me enjoy one more day before destroying my life, Thomas laughed bitterly. How thoughtful. His wife Jessica, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Thomas, what does this mean? We just bought the house, the mortgage. It means we're screwed, Thomas said flatly. It means I trusted the wrong people. He looked at me, then really looked at me for the first time in years. Lynette, I'm sorry. We treated you terribly. And for what? To impress a con artist. I'm not a con artist, Marcus protested. No. Thomas stood his chair, falling backward. What do you call someone who lives in a house they can't afford, drives cars they don't own, sends their kids to schools they can't pay for all, while letting others believe they're successful? What do you call someone who ruins lives to maintain their ego? Thomas, please, Sarah begged, not in front of the children. Us, the children who you've been teaching to lie, Jessica interjected. The children who think treating family like servants is normal. Those children... William started to cry. His younger sister Megan joined in. The perfect family Thanksgiving had become a nightmare. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a break. Let everyone calm down. Emma will be here soon, and I'd rather she not walk into this situation. He looked at me. Lynette, would you join me on the terrace for a moment? I'd like to discuss something privately. I nodded, grateful for the escape. As I stood, William grabbed my hand. Don't go, Aunt Lynette, he pleaded. You're the only one who doesn't yell. My heart broke a little. I knelt beside him. I'm just stepping outside for a moment, sweetheart. I'll be right back. Promise, he asked, his young face so earnest. Promise, I said, meaning it. Mr. Harrison and I walked through the French doors onto the terrace that overlooked the pool Sarah loved to brag about. The November air was cool, but refreshing after the suffocating atmosphere inside. I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. I should have handled this differently, not on a holiday, not in front of the children. They've been living a lie, I said simply. It was going to come out eventually. Perhaps, but I let my anger at how they treated you influence my approach. That was unprofessional. I studied him. You were really that offended by me eating in the kitchen? He smiled sadly. My mother was a maid, Lynette. She spent 30 years eating in other people's kitchens while they dined in comfort. I swore I'd never tolerate that kind of casual cruelty when I had the power to stop it. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment before he spoke again. There's something else. When I realized who you were, I did some checking. You never mentioned what you do now for work. No one asked, I said with a shrug. Well, what do you do? He pressed gently. I hesitated. This was the moment I'd avoided for 2 years, the truth I'd kept hidden, not out of shame, but out of what protection, pride, fear of how it would change things. I manage a medical technology company, I said finally. We develop emergency response software. His eyebrows rose. The company Emma mentioned. She said someone named Lynette had contacted her about trauma protocols for a new app. That was you. I nodded. After the accident, I couldn't stop thinking about how inefficient emergency responses could be. How many lives were lost in those crucial first minutes. So I started researching, developing ideas. With what resources, he asked, if you don't mind my asking. Mom left me a small inheritance, I admitted. Nothing like what Sarah expected, just $50,000. She left Sarah and Thomas' family jewelry and items worth much more. They never knew about the cash. And you turned $50,000 into a medical technology company. It's not as impressive as it sounds, I said, deflecting. I had help. My ex-fiancé James is a software developer. We realized we worked better as business partners than romantic ones. He handled the technical side, I handled the medical and business development. James Chen, Mr. Harrison asked suddenly, of MedTech Innovations. I blinked in surprise. You know our company. Know it. He laughed. Emma's hospital just signed a contract to implement your emergency response system. She's been raving about it for weeks. Says it'll revolutionize trauma care. The sliding door opened before I could respond. Thomas stepped out looking haggard. Lynette, he said, his voice rough. Can we talk? Mr. Harrison excused himself, heading back inside. Thomas took his place at the railing, staring out at the pool. I got a text, he said without preamble, from Patterson Industries. The position they offered 6 months ago, it's been filled, but they have an entry-level opening if I'm interested. He laughed bitterly. Entry-level, after 10 years in the industry. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. Are you... He turned to face me. After how we treated you, Sarah and I, we fed off each other's cruelty, made ourselves feel bigger by making you smaller. And for what? So we could feel superior while our lives fell apart. You didn't know about Marcus's situation, I offered. But I knew about ours, he countered. Jessica and I have been drowning in debt trying to keep up with Sarah's lifestyle. Private schools, we can't afford a house that stretches us to breaking vacations on credit cards. And I let it happen because I was too proud to admit we were struggling. He paused, seeming to gather courage. That medical technology company Mr. Harrison mentioned, you run it. I nodded. And you never told us because you never asked. I said simply, every family gathering, all you and Sarah talked about was yourselves, your successes, your purchases, your connections. I became background noise, someone to compare yourselves to. Why would I share my life with people who made it clear they thought I was worthless? The words hung between us, harsh but true. Thomas flinched as if I'd slapped him. We really are terrible people, aren't we? He said quietly. No, I said after a moment. You're people who lost their way. There's a difference. Is there? He looked genuinely lost. I don't even know who I am anymore. The man I wanted to be would never have treated his sister like a servant, would never have stood by while she was humiliated. The door opened again. Sarah appeared, mascara streaking her cheeks. The children are asking for you, she told Thomas. They're scared. He nodded and headed inside, pausing to squeeze my shoulder. It was the first genuine gesture of affection he'd shown me in years. Sarah and I faced each other across the terrace. My successful sister reduced to tears and running makeup looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Go ahead, she said, her voice bitter. Say it. Say you're enjoying this. I'm not, I said honestly. Watching family destroy themselves isn't enjoyable, Sarah. It's just sad. Family. She laughed harshly. We haven't been family in years. Not since you chose mom over your future. I chose love over ambition, I corrected, and I'd do it again. Even knowing what it cost you, what we cost you. I thought about it, really thought about it. The lonely holidays, the cruel comments, the exclusion from family moments, but also the late nights with mom holding her hand, the peace in her eyes at the end, knowing she wasn't alone. The business I'd built from grief and love, the lives that might be saved because I'd stopped to help a stranger on a dark road. Every choice has a cost, I said finally. I can live with mine. Can you live with yours? She crumpled, then sinking onto a terrace chair. I don't know how we got here. Marcus promised me everything. The house, the lifestyle, the respect, and I believed him. I turned into someone I don't recognize because I believed him. You turned into someone cruel because you chose to, I said, not unkindly but firmly. Marcus didn't make you treat me like a servant. He didn't force you to forge my signature or lie to your children. Those were your choices. I know, she whispered. God, I know, and now I'm going to lose everything. Maybe, I agreed, or maybe you'll find out who you really are when you stop pretending to be someone else. Before Sarah could respond, the terrace door burst open. William ran out, tears streaming down his face, and threw himself at me, wrapping his small arms around my legs. Don't leave Aunt Lynette, he sobbed. Everyone's fighting, and Megan's scared, and Daddy won't stop yelling at Marcus. I picked him up, feeling his small body tremble against mine. Over his shoulder, I could see through the glass doors into the dining room where chaos had erupted. Thomas and Marcus were in each other's faces, Jessica trying to pull her husband back. The extended family had divided into camps, some gathering, the children others, actively participating in the argument. It's okay, sweetheart, I murmured to William, though nothing about this situation was okay. Sarah stood wiping her ruined makeup. I should go in, try to calm things down. With what authority? I asked, not cruelly, but practically. You've lost their trust. Thomas just found out he's unemployed because of your husband. Your relatives just discovered you've been lying about your wealth. What exactly do you think you can say to make this better? She deflated again. Nothing, there's nothing I can say. Mr. Harrison appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. I've called my security team, not to remove anyone, he added quickly, seeing Sarah's panic, but to ensure this doesn't escalate to violence. Marcus just took a swing at Thomas. What? Sarah rushed past him into the house. I followed more slowly, still carrying William. The dining room was a war zone. The beautiful table setting was in disarray, Thomas holding a napkin to his bleeding lip, while Marcus nursed bruised knuckles. Jessica had both their children clutched to her sides. The extended family stood in shocked clusters. Enough! Mr. Harrison's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Despite not raising his voice, everyone froze. There are children present. Whatever grievances you have, violence is not the answer. He ruined my life. Thomas spat blood on his teeth. You ruined your own life, Marcus shot back. No one forced you to live beyond your means. You promised me partnership, Thomas countered. You promised growth. You promised stability. All lies. Business involves risk, Marcus said, but his bravado was cracking. You knew that. Risk is one thing. Fraud is another, Thomas said. How many other employees did you string along? How many other families are about to get that text tomorrow? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Aunt Patricia spoke up, her voice shaking. Robert and I invested our retirement savings in Wellington development. Marcus, are you saying that money is gone? The color drained from Uncle Robert's face. Patricia, when did we agreed to discuss major financial decisions. It was supposed to be a surprise, she said weakly, for our anniversary trip. Marcus guaranteed 20% returns. Guaranteed, Mr. Harrison repeated. Mr. Wellington, did you actually use that word? Because guaranteed returns on investments are illegal to promise. More voices joined the fray. Cousin Janet mentioned a loan she'd given. Another relative talked about a property investment. The scope of Marcus's deception spread like wildfire through the family. Through it all, I stood holding William, watching my family tear itself apart over money and lies. The child in my arms had stopped crying, his thumb in his mouth, as he watched the adults with wide, frightened eyes. "Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice cutting through the crescendo of accusations, "may I suggest we adjourn to somewhere calmer? This isn't productive and it's traumatizing the children." He nodded approvingly. "Excellent suggestion. Those directly involved in the lease situation, please join me in the study. The rest of you, please remain here. My security team will ensure everyone stays calm." As if on cue, two professionally dressed men appeared at the main entrance, their presence immediately dampening the potential for more violence. Sarah looked at me pleadingly. "Will you come as the mediator?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to walk out to leave them to the mess they'd created, but William's weight in my arms reminded me that innocent people would suffer from the fallout. "Oh, fine," I said, "but someone needs to watch the children." "I'll stay with them." Jessica volunteered, extracting herself from Thomas's side. "They don't need to see any more of this." We filed into Marcus's study, or rather, Mr. Harrison's study that Marcus had been pretending was his. The room was all dark leather and law books designed to impress. Mr. Harrison took the seat behind the desk, emphasizing who really owned this space. "Now," he began, pulling out his portfolio again, "let's discuss facts, not emotions. Mr. and Mrs. Wellington, you owe 3 months' rent at $8,000 per month. That's $24,000 in arrears plus late fees. Do you have this money?" Sarah and Marcus exchanged looks. "Not immediately available," Marcus admitted. "Do you have it at all?" Mr. Harrison pressed. "Our assets are tied up," Marcus said vaguely. "In what?" I asked, surprising myself by speaking up. "What assets specifically?" Marcus glared at me. "Complex financial instruments you wouldn't understand." "Try me," I said evenly. He rattled off some investment terms, clearly expecting me to be lost. Instead, I nodded slowly. "So cryptocurrency speculation and margin trading, both down significantly this year. What percentage of leverage were you using?" His mouth opened and closed. Sarah stared at me. "How do you know about that?" she asked. "I run a company," I said simply. "Financial literacy is rather essential." Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair. "Please continue, Lynette. What's your assessment?" I thought carefully. Based on what Marcus just described and the current market conditions, I'd estimate his portfolio is down at least 60%. With the leverage he mentioned, that could mean owing more than the initial investment. Am I close to that? Marcus's silence was confirmation enough. "So not only can you not pay the rent," Mr. Harrison summarized, "but you're likely in significant debt from failed investments. Is that correct?" "The market will recover," Marcus said desperately. "Perhaps," Mr. Harrison agreed, "but my mortgage payment is due now, not when the market recovers." Thomas, who had been silently nursing his split lip, spoke up. "How bad is it really, Marcus? The company, I mean. Are we talking about delayed payments or complete shutdown?" Marcus wouldn't meet his eye. "The downtown project fell through 6 months ago. I've been using personal credit to make payroll." 6 months. Thomas exploded. "You've been paying us with credit cards for 6 months. "I was trying to save the company," Marcus defended. "To save all our jobs." "No," I interjected. "You were trying to save your image. If you cared about the jobs, you would have been honest, maybe found a buyer restructured properly. Instead, you let everyone believe things were fine while you dug the hole deeper." "Easy for you to say," Marcus sneered. "What do you know about maintaining a business reputation?" My phone rang before I could respond. I glanced at the screen. James. "I'm sorry, I need to take this." I said, answering. It's my business partner. Lynette, I'm sorry to call during your family dinner. James's voice was excited. But we just got the offer from MedConnect. They want to buy us out. Full acquisition. My heart skipped. The medical consortium. Yes, they're offering. Well, are you sitting down? James, just tell me. 50 million for the company. Your 40% stake would be 20 million. The room went utterly silent. I was vaguely aware of every eye on me, but my focus was on processing James's words. That's substantial, I managed. It's more than substantial. It's life-changing, James said. They want an answer by Monday. I know this is bad timing with the holiday, but I thought you should know immediately. Thank you, I said, my mind reeling. Can we discuss the details tomorrow? Of course. Enjoy your family dinner. And Lynette, we did it. We actually did it. I hung up my hands, slightly shaky. The room remained frozen in silence. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice barely a whisper. $20 million. It's an offer, I said, trying to downplay it. Nothing's finalized. $20 million, she repeated, as if saying it again would make it less real. But you're a college dropout who answers phones at a clinic. I suggested, echoing her earlier words. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Well, this is an interesting development. Lynette, I assume this is for the medical technology company you mentioned. I nodded, still processing. When I'd started the company with James, it had been about solving a problem, saving lives. The money had never been the point. I don't understand, Marcus said, his voice strained. What company? What technology? The company I started after Mom died, I explained. We developed software that helps emergency responders save lives more efficiently. It's being implemented in hospitals nationwide. But how? Sarah's voice cracked. You had nothing. Mom left you nothing. She left me $50,000, I corrected. And more importantly, she left me the understanding that life is precious and time matters. Every second counts in an emergency. Our software helps make those seconds count. Thomas laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. So while we were mocking you for having no ambition, you were building a company worth 50 million. The company's worth isn't the point, I said. The lives it saves are the point. Easy to say when you're about to be worth 20 million, Marcus muttered. Is it? I challenged. Because you've been pretending to be wealthy for years, and what has it brought you? Bankruptcy, fraud, charges, a family in ruins. Mr. Harrison interjected. If I may bring us back to the matter at hand, Mr. and Mrs. Wellington, your financial situation is clearly dire. However, Lynette's circumstances change things. What do you mean? Sarah asked hopefully. You fraudulently listed her as a financial guarantor, he explained. Normally, I would pursue legal action. But if Lynette is willing to actually guarantee the lease going forward, I might be willing to forgive the fraud and create a payment plan for the arrears. All eyes turned to me. Sarah's were pleading. Marcus's were calculating. Thomas's were resigned. You want me to guarantee their lease? I asked, making sure I understood. Take financial responsibility for their home. Only if you're willing, Mr. Harrison emphasized. You have no obligation to help people who've treated you poorly. William's words echoed in my mind. Aunt Lynette's the only one who doesn't yell. I thought about the children innocent in all this. I thought about my mother's lessons on family and forgiveness. I need conditions, I said finally. Of course, Mr. Harrison agreed. What conditions? First, complete financial transparency. I see all bank statements, all debts, everything. Second, Marcus and Sarah enter credit counseling and financial management courses. Third, family therapy. All of us. The children are being damaged by this dynamic. Therapy, Sarah protested weakly. Non-negotiable, I said firmly. Fourth, Thomas gets help finding new employment without Marcus's interference or bad references. Fifth, any family members who invested money with Marcus get first priority for repayment from any future earnings. Those seem reasonable, Mr. Harrison said. Mr. and Mrs. Wellington. Marcus's jaw was clenched so tight I worried he might crack a tooth. Sarah looked between her husband and me, clearly torn. What choice do we have? She finally asked. You always have choices, I said. You can refuse and face eviction and fraud charges. You can accept and actually work to rebuild your lives, or you can continue pretending everything's fine until it all collapses completely. Why would you help us? Marcus asked suspiciously. After everything. I'm not helping you, I said honestly. I'm helping William and Megan and the other children who didn't choose any of this. I'm honoring what my mother would have wanted, which is family trying to heal rather than destroy each other. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I'm sorry, I said, declining the call. We should focus on the immediate situation. The phone immediately rang again, same number. Mr. Harrison frowned. Perhaps you should answer. It might be related to your business offer. I answered with some irritation. Hello! Is this Lynette Morgan? A young female voice asked. Speaking, I said, still focused on the family drama before me. This is Emma Harrison. My father told me he found you. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm in your sister's driveway with my surgical team. We were so excited. But if this is a bad time... I looked at Mr. Harrison, who smiled sheepishly. I may have mentioned the address, he admitted. It's fine. I told Emma, though nothing about this day was fine. Come in through the front door. It's unlocked. I hung up and stood. We'll need to continue this discussion later. Mr. Harrison, your daughter has arrived. Emma always was impatient when she set her mind on something, he said fondly. Shall we greet them? We filed out of the study to find the entry hall filled with people in scrubs and hospital IDs. At the center stood a young woman with her father's eyes and a brilliant smile. The moment she saw me, she rushed forward. You're really her, she breathed. I can't believe it. Do you know how long I've looked for you? Before I could respond, she had enveloped me in a hug that rivaled her father's earlier embrace. You saved my life, she said, pulling back with tears in her eyes, and you disappeared before I could thank you. Anyone would have done the same, I said, uncomfortable with the attention. No, she said, firmly echoing her father. They wouldn't. And even if they would have stopped, they wouldn't have known to check for internal bleeding the way you did. The paramedics said your field dressing probably saved me from bleeding out. How did you know to do that? One of her colleagues asked an older man with kind eyes. Are you a doctor? No, I admitted. But I spent 3 years caring for my mother through cancer. You learn things in hospitals. You pay attention because someone you love depends on it. This is why I went into trauma surgery, Emma announced to the room, because a stranger with no medical training cared enough to learn to stop to save a life. Every time we lose someone in the ER, I think about how different it might have been if they'd had someone like you there in those first crucial moments. Which is why your software is so brilliant, another surgeon added. We've been beta testing it for 6 months. The response time improvements are remarkable. I blinked. You've been using our software. You're the MedTech Innovations founder, Emma squealed. Dad, you didn't tell me she was the Lynette Morgan? Oh my God, this is even better than I imagined. The woman who saved my life also created the technology that's helping us save others. The room had filled with family members drawn by the commotion. Sarah and Marcus hung back, clearly overwhelmed by this unexpected turn. The extended family whispered among themselves, trying to piece together this new version of me they were seeing. Dr. Harrison, one of the surgeons, addressed Emma formally. We should probably go. This is clearly a family gathering, and we're intruding. Nonsense, Mr. Harrison said. Lynette is family as far as I'm concerned, and from what I've seen tonight, she could use some reminders that not all family is toxic. Dad, Emma scolded gently, but her eyes were on my actual family with cool assessment. William had escaped from Jessica and ran to me again, this time curious rather than scared. Are you a doctor, Aunt Lynette? He asked, looking at all the people in scrubs. No, sweetheart. These are doctors. They work with Emma. The lady whose life you saved. He said it matter-of-factly as if his aunt saving lives was perfectly normal, which I realized with a start it was to him. He'd never absorbed the family narrative about my failures. That's right, Emma said, kneeling to his level. Your aunt is a hero. Do you know that? William nodded solemnly. She's the best aunt. She never yells and she makes good pie and she reads all the voices in stories. Emma smiled. I bet she does. She stood addressing me again. I know this is awkward timing, but we brought something for you. A thank you that's 3 years overdue. One of her colleagues stepped forward with a wrapped frame. From all of us at St. Mary's Trauma Unit. I unwrapped it carefully, aware of everyone watching. Inside was a beautifully matted photo of Emma in her surgical scrubs, surrounded by her team. Below it was a plaque that read, "To Lynette Morgan, who reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes or carry credentials. Sometimes they just stop to help. With gratitude from the lives you've saved and the lives we save because of your example." I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. These strangers had put more thought into thanking me than my own family had in years. We use your story in our training, the older surgeon explained, about the importance of every person in the chain of survival. The bystander who stops the dispatcher, who guides the paramedics, who respond the surgeons who operate. Everyone matters. And now your software makes that chain even stronger, Emma added. Do you have any idea how many lives have been saved because emergency responders can work more efficiently with your system? The numbers are just statistics, I said, finding my voice. Each life matters individually. Spoken like someone who truly understands, Emma said. She glanced around the room, taking in the formal dining room, the scattered Thanksgiving dinner of the divided family. Are we interrupting something important? Just family drama, I said honestly. Nothing that can't wait. Family drama on Thanksgiving. She made a sympathetic face. Been there, though probably not quite like this. Her gaze landed on Sarah, who was trying to inch closer to our group. You must be Lynette's sister, the one with the beautiful house. Sarah flushed. Yes, I'm Sarah. This is my Mr. Harrison's house. The correction was painful for her, but Emma didn't seem to notice, or pretended not to. It's lovely, Emma said politely, then turning back to me, listen, I know you have family obligations, but we're having a small gathering at the hospital tonight. Thanksgiving dinner for the staff stuck working holidays. Would you consider joining us? I promise it's more fun than it sounds. That's kind of you, I began, but Sarah interrupted. Lynette can't leave. We're in the middle of important family discussions. Emma's polite smile didn't waver, but her eyes sharpened. Of course, family comes first, she paused. Though, from what my father mentioned, it seems Lynette hasn't been treated much like family here. The awkward silence that followed was deafening. Emma, Mr. Harrison warned gently. I'm sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. It's just that I've spent 3 years thinking about the woman who saved me, wondering who she was, what kind of person stops in a storm to help a stranger, and now I find out she's been here all along being treated like... She gestured vaguely at the kitchen where I'd been eating alone. You don't understand the situation, Marcus said stiffly. I understand enough, Emma replied. I understand that Lynette gave up her education to care for your mother. I understand she built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. I understand she saved my life and never even mentioned it to her own family. And I understand she was eating alone in the kitchen on Thanksgiving like hired help. Each word landed like a slap. The extended family members who hadn't known the full story were putting pieces together, and the picture wasn't flattering to Sarah and Marcus. Perhaps we should go, the older surgeon suggested diplomatically. No, I said suddenly. I mean, yes, you should probably go, but I'll come with you, to the hospital dinner. Lynette, you can't, Sarah said desperately. We need to finish discussing the lease, the finances. It'll keep, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mr. Harrison has my number. We can meet tomorrow to finalize everything. But it's Thanksgiving, she protested. Family should be together. Family. I repeated, tasting the word. Yes, family should be together, which is why I'm going to spend the rest of the evening with people who see me as more than a failure to mock or a bank account to tap. That's not fair, Thomas said quietly. We're trying to make things right. No, I corrected. You're trying to save yourselves from the consequences of your choices. There's a difference. William tugged on my hand. Can I come with you, Aunt Lynette? Not this time, sweetheart, but I promise I'll visit soon. We'll have that tea party you wanted, okay? He nodded, then whispered loudly, I love you, Aunt Lynette. I love you too, I said, kissing his forehead. As I gathered my things, Sarah made one last attempt. If you leave now, you might not have a family to come back to. I paused at the door, Emma and her team waiting for me. Sarah, I haven't had a family here for years. I had relatives who tolerated my presence when it suited them. There's a difference between family and blood relations. Family shows up. Family cares. Family doesn't make you eat alone in the kitchen because you're not successful enough for the dining room. We'll change, she said desperately. We'll do the therapy, the financial counseling, everything you asked. I hope you do, I said sincerely. Not for me, but for your children. They deserve better than parents who teach them that love is conditional on net worth. Mr. Harrison stepped forward. I'll have the paperwork drawn up based on Lynette's conditions. We'll meet tomorrow at my office, 10 a.m. if that works for everyone. Nods all around, though Marcus looked like he'd swallowed glass. As I walked out my sister's front door, not the back, I heard William ask loudly, Why is everyone sad Aunt Lynette saved someone's life? That's happy. Out of the mouths of babes indeed. Emma linked her arm through mine as we walked to the cars. That was harder than saving my life, wasn't it? Different kind of hard, I admitted. For what it's worth, she said, I think you're incredible. And not because of the money or the company, because you know who you are. Do you know how rare that is? I thought about it as we drove away from my sister's fake life in a house she didn't own, leaving behind family who just discovered I wasn't who they decided I was. Tomorrow, there would be papers to sign and decisions to make, but tonight, I was going to have Thanksgiving dinner with people who saw me clearly. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Heard you're having family drama. Remember, you can choose your business partners. Also, MedConnect upped their offer to $55 million. Happy Thanksgiving, partner. I smiled, thinking about Mom. She'd always said the best revenge against those who underestimate you isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so full you forget they exist. It had taken me a while, but I finally understood what she meant. The drive to St. Mary's Hospital felt like crossing from one world into another. Emma had insisted I ride with her, leaving my old Honda in Sarah's driveway, like a reminder of who they'd thought I was. Her car smelled like coffee and antiseptic, the back seats full of medical journals and empty energy drink cans. I'm sorry if I overstepped back there, she said as we merged onto the highway. Dad warned me to be diplomatic, but seeing how they treated you especially, knowing what you've done. You didn't overstep, I assured her. Sometimes truth needs to be spoken even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then, she agreed. That's what surgery taught me. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. My phone had been buzzing constantly since we left. 17 missed calls from Sarah, 12 from Thomas, even 3 from Marcus. I silenced it completely. They're panicking, Emma observed. Reality has a way of doing that to people who've been living in denial. At the hospital, the contrast to my sister's formal dining room was stark. The cafeteria had been transformed with paper decorations clearly made by patients in the children's ward. Mismatched tablecloths covered long tables where staff in scrubs mixed with families of patients who couldn't go home for the holiday. Welcome to the real world, Emma said warmly, where people are too busy saving lives to worry about whose house is biggest. The trauma team welcomed me like an old friend. Within minutes, I was seated between a pediatric nurse named Rosa and an EMT called Marcus, which made me laugh given the Marcus I'd left behind. Different kind of Marcus, I'm guessing, the EMT said when I explained. I drive an ambulance and live in a studio apartment, but I sleep well knowing every shift matters. That's worth more than a mansion, I said, meaning it. The conversation flowed easily, people sharing stories of their work, their families, their dreams. No one asked about my net worth or judged my 3-year-old dress. When someone mentioned the medtech software, I admitted my involvement, but it was met with practical questions about functionality, not sudden fake interest in friendship. The alert system has cut our response time by 30% in some cases, Rosa explained. Do you understand what that means? How many more children make it because we get there faster? I did understand. It's why James and I had pushed through 18-hour days and countless rejections to get it built. Halfway through dinner, Dr. Martinez, the older surgeon from earlier, sat down across from me. I have to ask, what made you check Emma for internal bleeding that night? Most people wouldn't have known to look. My mother, I said simply. She had a complication during chemo that caused internal bleeding. I watched the signs, learned what to look for. That night, Emma had the same subtle symptoms. Your tragedy became her miracle, he said thoughtfully. That's the thing about pain. It can make us bitter, or it can make us better. You chose better. My phone face down on the table vibrated constantly. Emma noticed and raised an eyebrow. My family, I explained. They're processing some hard truths. Want to talk about it? She offered. So I did. Surrounded by strangers who felt more like family than my blood relatives, I told the whole story. Mom's illness, the sacrifice they'd mocked the years of exclusion, the business they never knew about the money that suddenly made me worth knowing. They stole my identity for the lease, I said, still processing that betrayal. My own sister forged my signature. Rosa whistled low. And you're still willing to help them? Their children didn't forge anything, I said. William and Megan and the others, they're innocent. They deserve stability while their parents figure out who they really are. You're a better person than I am, Marcus the EMT said. My family pulled something similar when my grandmother died. Haven't spoken to them in 5 years. Maybe that's healthier, I admitted, but I keep thinking about my mom. She used to say that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. We choose to show up or we don't. We choose to be cruel or kind. They've made their choices, but I still get to make mine. And you choose kindness, Dr. Martinez observed, even when it's not returned. Especially then, I said. Anyone can be kind to people who are kind to them. The test is what we do with people who aren't. Emma's pager went off. She checked it and sighed. Multi-vehicle accident coming in. I have to go. Want to watch? Rosa asked me. The observation deck is open. You can see your software in action. I hesitated, then nodded. This felt more real, more important than whatever drama was unfolding at Sarah's house. From the observation deck, I watched controlled chaos transform into coordinated precision. The alert system James and I had developed guided resources, tracked patients, coordinated between units. What looked like chaos was actually a dance, each person knowing their role. That's your system predicting blood type needs based on the injury reports, Rosa pointed out. Blood's already being prepped before they even arrive. Pride swelled in my chest. This is what we'd built. Not for fortune or fame, but for moments like this. Lives hanging in the balance, saved by seconds, shaved off response times. My phone rang. This time it was a number I recognized but hadn't seen in months, my Aunt Patricia. I should take this, I told Rosa. Hello, Aunt Pat, I answered, stepping into the hallway. Lynette, dear, I'm sorry to bother you, but things have gotten worse here. Her voice was strained. After you left, Marcus admitted the full extent of the financial situation. Robert and we invested everything, our entire retirement. My heart sank. How much? 200,000, she whispered. Robert doesn't know, I took out a second mortgage on our house without telling him. Marcus said it was guaranteed that we'd double our money in 6 months. Oh, Aunt Pat. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Why didn't you talk to someone first? A financial advisor? Anyone? Marcus showed us documents, profits from other investments. It all looked so legitimate. And Sarah was so proud of his success. We thought... She broke off, crying. Where's Uncle Robert now? He locked himself in Thomas's old room. He won't talk to me. 40 years of marriage and I've destroyed it with one lie. One lie. How many lies had been told in my family? They multiplied like cancer cells, each one making the next easier. Is he safe? I asked, concerned about my uncle's mental state. Thomas is with him. They're talking. But Lynette, if we lose the house, we're too old to start over. You won't lose the house, I said, making a decision I'd probably regret. I'll help. I couldn't ask that of you. Not after how we've all treated you. You're not asking. I'm offering, but there are conditions, same as with Sarah. Full financial transparency. You and Uncle Robert get counseling, both financial and marriage. And no more secrets between you two. Anything. She agreed immediately. Lynette, why are you doing this? We stood by while Sarah treated you terribly. We believed their lies about you. Because Uncle Robert taught me to ride a bike, I said simply. Because you snuck me cookies when Mom said no. Because love means showing up even when people don't deserve it. She was crying harder now. Your mother would be so proud of who you've become. She'd be disappointed in what the rest of you became, I said gently but honestly. But she'd also believe in second chances. So that's what I'm offering. A chance to become who you really are, not who Marcus's money made you think you were. After I hung up, I stood in the hospital hallway watching the controlled chaos of the ER through glass windows. My phone showed 32 unread messages. The family group chat that I was rarely included in had exploded with activity. Thomas, Marcus just admitted he lost Mom's entire life insurance payout in cryptocurrency. Jessica, we're leaving, staying with my parents until we figure out next steps. Sarah, please don't abandon us. We're family. Marcus, anyone know a good bankruptcy attorney? Cousin Janet, Lynette, please call us. We need to understand what happened. I scrolled through, watching my family's perfect facade crumble in real time. Then I noticed a message from an unknown number. Ms. Morgan, this is Robert Harrison. I apologize for texting, but I wanted you to know I've had my legal team begin investigating Marcus Wellington's investment fraud. What he's done appears to be criminal. Your family members who invested may have legal recourse. I thought you should know before tomorrow's meeting. Criminal. The word sat heavy in my stomach. My phone rang again. James this time. Hey, partner, he answered. How's family Thanksgiving going? Marcus might be going to jail. Sarah forged my signature. Thomas got fired, and I'm currently watching trauma surgeries at St. Mary's Hospital. So better than last year when they made you eat in the garage. Despite everything, I laughed. That's one way to look at it. Listen, I know this is bad timing, but MedConnect wants to move fast. They're talking about closing by year-end. That's 4 weeks. You okay with that timeline? 4 weeks until everything changed. 4 weeks to decide who I wanted to be with $20 million in the bank. I need to think, I said honestly. Take your time. We'll take 4 weeks. But Lynette, don't let family drama derail this. We've worked too hard. I know, I assured him. I won't let them take this from me, too. After we hung up, I returned to the observation deck. Emma had successfully treated 2 of the accident victims and was scrubbing out. She waved at me through the glass, and I felt a warmth that had been missing at my sister's formal dinner. Your software saved the kid, Rosa told me excitedly. Predicted a complication before symptoms showed. Emma caught it in time because of the alert. A life saved, a family kept whole. This was wealth that couldn't be measured in dollars. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. The police are here. Marcus is being questioned. Please come back. I don't know what to do." I stared at the message, then at the controlled chaos of the ER where real problems were being solved by competent people. My family had created their own disaster through greed and lies. They'd excluded me when I had nothing to offer, only to demand my presence when I had everything to give. "I have to go," I told Rosa reluctantly. "Family calling," she guessed. "Unfortunately." "You know," she said thoughtfully, "in medicine we have a saying. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. Sometimes the kindest thing is to let them hit bottom so they can start climbing up." Good advice, but there were children involved. William's tearful face haunted me, Megan's confusion, the cousins who'd been taught to see me as less than, now watching their parents' world collapse. Emma met me in the lobby, still in her scrubs. "You're going back to them." It wasn't a question. Somehow she understood. "The children," I said simply. "You really are a healer," she said. "Just a different kind than me." But Lynette set boundaries. Their emergency isn't your responsibility. Their children are their responsibility. You can help without sacrificing yourself. "I'm trying to learn that balance," I admitted. "When you figure it out, teach me," she laughed. "I'm terrible at boundaries, too. Occupational hazard of caring too much." She hugged me goodbye, and I found myself reluctant to leave this place where I was seen and valued for who I really was. The drive back to Sarah's house felt like returning to a crime scene. Police cars in the driveway confirmed that feeling. Through the windows, I could see officers talking to Marcus while Sarah stood by wringing her hands. I parked my old Honda between a police cruiser and Marcus's leased BMW, the contrast almost poetic. Inside, the beautiful house felt like a mausoleum. The Thanksgiving decorations mocked the scene paper pilgrims smiling over a family in ruins. "Aunt Lynette." William ran to me immediately. "The police are here. They're asking Daddy questions about money." I picked him up, his weight familiar now. "Where's your mom?" "Crying in the bathroom. Aunt Jessica took Megan and Tyler to Grandma's house. Everyone's leaving." The dining room table hadn't been cleared. Congealed gravy and cold turkey testified to how quickly celebration had turned to catastrophe. In the living room, Marcus sat with two detectives, while Mr. Harrison and another man in a suit observed. "Lynette." Mr. Harrison acknowledged me. "This is my attorney, David Chen. He's been explaining to the detectives about the lease fraud and the investment situation." Sarah emerged from the bathroom, her face blotchy and swollen. "Thank God you're here. They're saying Marcus committed wire fraud, federal crimes. I don't understand any of this." "Then let me explain," Detective Morrison, according to her badge, said patiently. "Your husband took money from investors claiming it was for real estate development. Instead, he used it for personal expenses and high-risk cryptocurrency trading. That's fraud. The amount involved makes it federal." "But he meant to pay it back," Sarah protested weakly. "Oh, intent to repay doesn't negate fraud," the detective explained. "Mr. Wellington, we'll need you to come to the station for formal questioning. You have the right to an attorney." "I need to call my lawyer," Marcus said, his voice finally showing fear. "You can do that at the station," Detective Morrison's partner said. "Let's go." As they led Marcus out in handcuffs, Sarah collapsed onto the couch. William clung to me tighter, not understanding why his father was leaving with police. "Daddy's in trouble," he whispered. "He made some bad choices," I said carefully. "The police need to talk to him about it." "Is he going to jail like Tommy's dad on TV?" Children saw everything understood more than adults gave them credit for. "I don't know, sweetheart. We'll have to wait and see." The house emptied quickly after that. The extended family scattered like roaches when light hits, each dealing with their own financial losses and embarrassment. Only Thomas remained sitting at the destroyed dining table with his head in his hands. "I turned down Patterson Industries for this," he said to no one in particular. "Six-figure salary, full benefits partnership track for a con man who married my sister. You couldn't have known I offered." "Couldn't I?" He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. The signs were there. The fancy cars that changed every year. The house they couldn't really afford. The way Marcus always had another scheme, another big deal coming. I saw it all and ignored it because I wanted to believe. We all want to believe in family, I said. Do we? He laughed bitterly. Or do we want to believe in success in status? Would I have taken that job if Marcus had been honest about struggling? Would Sarah have married him if he'd been middle class? Hard questions without easy answers. Sarah reappeared, William having run to his room once the police left. What am I supposed to do? She asked the room. How do I explain this to the children? How do I pay for lawyers? How do I keep the house? You don't, I said simply. You can't keep a house you never really had. You tell the children the truth in age-appropriate ways. You get a job. You rebuild. A job. She said it like a foreign word. I haven't worked in 8 years. Who's gonna hire me? Everyone starts somewhere, I said. I started over after Mom died. Thomas will start over after this. You can too. But I don't know how, she admitted, the first truly honest thing she'd said all day. I don't know how to be anything other than Marcus's wife. Then you learn, Thomas said. We all learn how to be honest, how to work, how to treat family like family instead of audience members for our performance. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. I'll give you 30 days to relocate. That's more generous than the law requires, but there are children involved. However, the lease fraud still needs to be addressed. I'll cover their moving expenses, I said, surprising myself. First month and security deposit on a reasonable apartment, something they can actually afford. Sarah stared at me. After everything you're still helping... I'm helping William and Megan have somewhere safe to sleep, I corrected. You're their mother. That help extends to you by necessity, not forgiveness. I'll pay you back, she said quickly. Every penny. No, I said firmly. You'll pay it forward. When you're stable, when you've rebuilt, you'll help someone else who needs it. That's the payment. My phone rang. Emma. I'm sorry to bother you again, she said. But I realized I never asked. What made you stop that night? Most people would have kept driving in that storm. I thought about it, really considered the question. My mother had died 3 months before. I was driving back from clearing out her hospital room, actually. I think I stopped because I knew what it felt like to need someone and have no one come. I couldn't drive past that. Your pain became my salvation, Emma said softly. Thank you. After we hung up, I looked around the wreckage of my family's Thanksgiving. The elaborate meal turned cold. The perfect house revealed as a rental. The successful businessmen in custody. The family scattered. It's all gone, Sarah whispered. Everything we built. No, I corrected. Everything Marcus built on lies is gone. Now you get to build something real. The next morning felt like waking up in an alternate reality. I'd spent the night in my own apartment, a modest but comfortable space that I'd purchased with my first major software contract. No marble countertops, no statement furniture, just a home that was actually mine. At 9:45, I arrived at Mr. Harrison's law office, a tasteful building downtown that spoke of old money and established power. Sarah was already there, looking haggard in yesterday's clothes. She'd clearly not slept. Marcus's lawyer says he might get 5 to 10 years, she said, without preamble. Federal prison. My children's father is going to federal prison. He's not convicted yet, I pointed out, though we both knew how this would likely end. Thomas arrived next, Jessica notably absent. She's staying with her parents, he explained. Needs time to think about our marriage. Can't blame her. Mr. Harrison's assistant showed us to a conference room where David Chen was already setting up documents. The table was covered with financial statements, lease agreements, and legal papers that represented the complete unraveling of Sarah and Marcus's fantasy life. Before we begin, Mr. Harrison said, entering with his usual commanding presence, I need everyone to understand the seriousness of the situation. The lease fraud alone could result in criminal charges for Sarah. The identity theft of using Lynette's information without consent is a federal crime. Sarah paled further if that was possible. I didn't know. Ignorance of the law isn't a defense, David Chen said matter-of-factly. However, Lynette has indicated she won't press charges if certain conditions are met. Let's be clear about those conditions, I said, pulling out my own notes. I'd spent the early morning hours thinking carefully about what would actually help versus what would simply enable. First, complete financial transparency. Every account, every debt, every asset. No hidden anything. There's nothing left to hide, Sarah said bitterly. Second, both Sarah and Thomas enter financial counseling. Not a suggestion, a requirement. Weekly sessions for at least 6 months. Who's paying for that? Thomas asked. You are, I said simply. It's an investment in not ending up here again. Third, family therapy. All of us, including the children when appropriate. We need to address the toxic dynamics that led us here. Even you, Sarah asked, surprised. Especially me, I admitted. I need to learn how to set boundaries without building walls. We all have work to do. Fourth, I continued, any family members who invested with Marcus get first priority for repayment from any future earnings or assets. What future earnings? Sarah laughed hollowly. I'm unemployable. Which brings me to 5. Sarah, you need to get a job. Any job. Within 30 days. Pride is a luxury you can't afford anymore. And if I refuse, she challenged, a spark of her old defiance showing. Then I don't guarantee the lease you face fraud charges and you figure out housing on your own while potentially facing criminal prosecution, I said evenly. Your choice. Thomas spoke up. What about me, my conditions? You need to swallow your pride too, I said. Take that entry-level position at Patterson if it's still available. Rebuild your career honestly this time. And no bad-mouthing Marcus to potential employers, no matter how much he deserves it. You take the high road. That's it. He seemed surprised. No, you also need to apologize to your wife for putting image over family stability, and mean it. Mr. Harrison nodded approvingly. These seem like reasonable conditions aimed at rehabilitation rather than punishment. Ms. Morgan, you're being remarkably generous considering the circumstances. I'm being practical, I corrected. Punishment doesn't help the children. Rehabilitation might give them parents capable of honest living. There's one more thing, David Chen interjected. The investigation into Marcus's fraud has revealed something interesting. Several of his real estate deals over the past 3 years involved properties that were later flipped at significant losses. It appears he was using them to launder money from the cryptocurrency speculation. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Launder money, like criminals. Technically, that's exactly what he is, the lawyer said. This could add years to his sentence and potentially implicate anyone who knowingly participated. I didn't know, Sarah said desperately. I signed papers he put in front of me, but I didn't know what they were for. That's what every spouse of a criminal says, David observed. Whether prosecutors believe you will depend on evidence. I watched my sister crumble further. The woman who'd made me eat in the kitchen was disappearing, replaced by someone scared and small. I'll testify that Sarah wasn't involved in the business, I said suddenly. Everyone looked at me in surprise. If needed, she was focused on appearances, not operations. Marcus kept her in the dark because it let him control everything. Why would you do that? Sarah whispered. Because it's true, I said simply, and because your children need at least one parent who isn't in prison. Mr. Harrison leaned forward. Let's move on to immediate practicalities. Sarah, you need to be out of the house in 30 days. Where will you go? I don't know. Jessica mentioned there are apartments near her parents. Maybe they're... I'll help you look, I offered. Something in a good school district so the kids don't have to change schools. Public school, Sarah said faintly. My children will have to go to public school. Public school won't kill them, Thomas said. We went to public school. That was different, Sarah protested. How, Goga? I challenged. Because we weren't pretending to be rich. Because Mom and Dad were honest about our middle-class life. Because we had less to lose, she admitted quietly. No, I said firmly. You had less to pretend about. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a text from James. MedConnect wants to meet Monday. They're eager to close. You good? I typed back, family drama ongoing, but yes, this doesn't change our plans. What's MedConnect? Thomas asked, reading over my shoulder out of habit. The company buying our startup, I said. James and I built something valuable. Now we're selling it to people who can scale it bigger. For 20 million, Sarah said, the number still seeming to pain her. 22 million for my share, actually, I corrected. They increased the offer. Must be nice, Thomas muttered. You know what's nice? I shot back, suddenly tired of their resentment. Building something from nothing while my family mocked me, working 18-hour days while you called me a failure, creating technology that saves lives while you worried about car leases. So, yes, it is nice. I earned nice. Yeah, she's right, Mr. Harrison interjected. I've seen the numbers on medtech innovations. The valuation is actually conservative given their market penetration and growth trajectory. You investigated my company? I asked, surprised. I investigate everyone involved in my properties, he said unapologetically. Your company is remarkable. The fact that you built it while being emotionally abused by your family is even more remarkable. We didn't abuse her, Sarah protested. No! Mr. Harrison pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Would you like me to read the messages you sent about her in the family group chat? The one she was excluded from. My investigator found quite illuminating conversations about the family failure, the charity case, the embarrassment. Sarah went white. Thomas looked sick. You read our private messages? Thomas asked. They were part of a public social media group, Mr. Harrison clarified, hardly private, and very revealing about character. I didn't want to know what they'd said, but part of me was grimly satisfied that someone else had seen it. The casual cruelty documented and undeniable. That's enough, I said. We're here to move forward, not rehash old wounds. Agreed, Mr. Harrison said. So let's discuss specifics. I'm willing to accept Lynette as a guarantor for a new lease on a modest apartment. Rent not to exceed $2,000 per month. Sarah will need to prove employment within 30 days to qualify. 2,000. Sarah looked stricken. That's nothing in this area. That's a reasonable 2-bedroom apartment, I corrected, which is what you need, not what you want. The children will have to share a room, she said. Like Thomas and I did growing up, I pointed out. It didn't kill us. Everything's changing, Sarah whispered. Everything. Change isn't always bad, I said, thinking of my own journey. Sometimes it's the only way to become who you're supposed to be. A knock on the door interrupted us. Mr. Harrison's assistant entered. There's someone here to see Ms. Morgan. Says it's urgent about the MedConnect deal. James walked in looking uncharacteristically formal in a suit. His expression was serious. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but we have a problem. MedConnect got wind of some family legal issues. They're concerned about reputational risk. They want to know if any of this impacts you. My heart sank. Of course, Marcus's crimes would ripple outward, touching everything. What kind of impact are they worried about? I asked. Whether you're implicated in any fraud, whether there are financial entanglements that could affect the company, whether the family drama will become public in ways that damage the brand. She's not involved in anything, Mr. Harrison said firmly. If anything, she's a victim of identity theft by family members. James looked relieved. That's what I told them, but they want documentation. Proof that Lynette is clean of any involvement. I can provide that, David Chen offered. I'll draft a letter outlining the situation, making clear that Ms. Morgan is a victim, not a perpetrator, and that she's taking steps to help law enforcement. Good, James said, because they also want to accelerate the timeline. Close by end of next week instead of end of year. Why the rush? I asked. Another company is sniffing around wanting to buy us. MedConnect doesn't want a bidding war. They're offering an extra $3 million to close fast. $25 million. The number felt surreal. That's... Sarah started, then stopped, perhaps realizing she had no right to comment on my business. Life-changing, Thomas finished quietly. Lives saved changing, I corrected. The money is just a tool. The impact is what matters. James smiled, the tension leaving his shoulders. And that's why you're the heart of this company. Tech bros would be popping champagne. You're thinking about emergency room efficiency. Speaking of which, I said, checking the time, can we wrap this up? I have a meeting with Emma Harrison's trauma team about implementing our new protocols. The daughter whose life you saved, Sarah said, seeming to really understand for the first time. She became a doctor because of you. She became a doctor because of her own choices, I said. I just made sure she lived long enough to make them. Before you go, Mr. Harrison said, I need one more thing clarified. Are you willing to guarantee Sarah's lease under the conditions discussed? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Stripped of pretense that faced with reality, she seemed smaller, but somehow more real than she'd been in years. Yes, I said, but Sarah understand this. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for William and Megan. You get housing because they need stability. You get a chance because they deserve better. Don't waste it. I won't, she said quietly. I can't promise to be perfect, but I promise to try. Trying is all any of us can do, I admitted. We signed papers, made arrangements, set meetings. As we prepared to leave, Thomas caught my arm. Lynette, I need to ask you something. The entry-level position at Patterson, if I take it, the salary is half what I was making. Jessica and I can't keep our house on that. Then sell it, I said simply. Get something you can afford. Start over within your means. Easy for you to say, he said, but without heat. No, I corrected. Easy for you to hear now that I have money, but I've been living within my means all along. Apartment I could afford, car that runs, clothes that last. The only difference between us is I never pretended otherwise. He nodded slowly. You're right. God, how did we get so lost? One lie at a time, I said gently, but you can find your way back one truth at a time too. As I left the building with James, he shook his head. Your family is something else. They're broken, I said, but maybe broken can heal stronger than never tested. Very philosophical, he teased, ready to be a multimillionaire philosopher. Ready to use resources to make a bigger difference, I said. The hospital wants to expand our program nationally. With the sale proceeds, we could fund development of the next generation ourselves instead of waiting for grants. Already planning version 2. He laughed. This is why I love working with you. The ink's not dry on this sale, and you're already solving the next problem. My phone rang. Emma. Bad timing, she asked. Just leaving the family drama mediation, I said. Heading your way now. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Plot twist. The buyer for your company? It's me. I stopped walking. What? Well, not just me. A consortium including my mother's medical investment fund. She left me more than money when she died. She left a mission to improve emergency medicine. Your software does that, so we're buying it. Your MedConnect, I asked, stunned. Part of it. I wanted to tell you yesterday, but the lawyers made me wait. Surprise. I laughed, really laughed for the first time in days. Emma, that's incredible. It gets better. We want you and James to stay on run the expansion. Full autonomy, just with our resources behind you. Interested? I looked at James, who was grinning, having heard her side of the conversation. Very interested, I said. Good. Because I have ideas about integrating AI predictive modeling that could cut response times another 20%. But that's a conversation for Monday. Today, just process your family stuff. See you when you're ready. After she hung up, James and I stood on the sidewalk outside Mr. Harrison's building, watching the city move around us. You know what this means, he said. We're not just selling out. We're scaling up with people who understand the mission. With people who've lived the mission, I corrected, thinking of Emma trapped in her car alive because strangers cared. Your mom would be proud, James said softly. She'd be more proud that I'm helping Sarah despite everything, I admitted. She always believed in family even when family didn't believe in us. 25 million buys a lot of forgiveness, guys, he observed. It's not about forgiveness, I said. It's about forward. They can't undo the past. Neither can I, but we can all choose better futures. My phone buzzed with a text from William, Aunt Lynette. Mommy says we might move. Will you still visit? I typed back, always. No matter where you live, I'll always be your Aunt Lynette. Because that was what family really meant. Not the house you lived in, or the car you drove, or the table you ate at. It meant showing up, especially when everything fell apart. It meant choosing love over pride, help over hatred, forward over frozen. As James and I walked to our cars, I thought about the strange journey that had led here. From eating alone in the kitchen to becoming the unexpected anchor in my family's storm. From college dropout to tech founder. From excluded sister to essential support. You know what the ironic part is, I said to James. If they'd been kind to me, included me, treated me like family, I might never have built any of this. Their cruelty gave me time and motivation to create something meaningful. Their loss, the world's gain, James said simply. I'd barely settled into my car when my phone rang again. The display showed a number I didn't recognize, but something about the timing made me answer. Ms. Morgan, this is Patricia Winters from Goldman Sachs. I'm calling about the MedTech Innovations acquisition. My pulse quickened. Goldman Sachs didn't call unless something significant was happening. I thought we were working directly with MedConnect, I said carefully. You are, but there's been a development. Another buyer has entered the picture. They're offering $70 million. I nearly dropped the phone. 70, that's 40% above MedConnect's current offer, Patricia finished. They want to move fast. Full cash deal close in 72 hours. Who's the buyer? I asked, though part of me was still processing the number. Hartwell Industries. They're rolling up emergency response technologies for a major play in the municipal services sector. Hartwell. I knew them by reputation, a massive conglomerate that bought companies and stripped them for parts. The opposite of everything James and I had built. I need to discuss this with my partner, I said. Of course. But Ms. Morgan, they want an answer by 5 p.m. today. This offer won't stay on the table. After she hung up, I sat in my car staring at nothing. 70 million meant 35 million for my stake. 10 million more than we discussed. It was absurd money cartoon, money change. Everything money. I called James immediately. Hartwell Industries. He sounded as shocked as I felt. Lynette, they're corporate raiders. They'll gut our system jack-up prices and destroy everything we built. I know, I said, but 35 million versus 25 million is significant. Is it? He challenged. Is 10 million worth watching our life's work turned into a cash grab? Emma and her consortium will nurture what we built. Hartwell will destroy it. He was right, of course, but I couldn't stop thinking about all the people I could help with an extra 10 million. Family members who'd lost everything to Marcus, programs to train more emergency responders, scholarships for students like I'd been forced to choose between education and family. I'm heading back to the hospital, I said. We need to talk to Emma before making any decision. Agreed. And Lynette, don't let the money make this decision. Let the mission make it. Easier said than done. As I drove, my phone exploded with family messages. Somehow word had already spread about the potential sale. The financial world was smaller than people realized. Thomas, heard Hartwell is bidding. That's serious money. Sarah, please be careful. Don't let them take advantage of you. Even Aunt Patricia. Robert says Hartwell has a terrible reputation. Your mother wouldn't want her legacy associated with them. How did everyone know already? Then I remembered Thomas had connections throughout the industry. Of course he'd hear. I arrived at St. Mary's to find Emma in her office, surrounded by charts and projections. She looked up as I knocked, her expression serious. You heard about Hartwell, she said. It wasn't a question. Just now. How did you know? They called me an hour ago, she admitted, tried to get me to withdraw MedConnect's offer, said they'd make it worth my while. What did you tell them? That some things aren't for sale, she said simply, like integrity, like the knowledge that our technology saves lives rather than generates profits. They're offering 70 million, I said, needing to voice the number aloud. I know, Emma leaned back in her chair, and I can't match that. MedConnect is mission-driven investors, not bottomless pockets. Our absolute maximum is 30 million total. That's still 5 million more than yesterday, I pointed out. It is, she agreed. But it's 40 million less than Hartwell. I won't insult you by pretending that's not significant. We sat in silence for a moment. Through her window, I could see the emergency department busy even on a Saturday morning. Tell me what happens if Hartwell buys us, I said. Emma pulled up something on her computer. Based on their track record, they'll triple the licensing fees within 6 months. Hospitals that can't afford it will lose access. They'll cut the support staff to maximize profits. They'll patent lock the innovations to prevent competition. Within 2 years, only wealthy hospitals in major cities will have our system. And the rural hospitals, the clinics. Back to the Stone Age, she said bluntly. Longer response times, more deaths, particularly in communities that already face healthcare disparities. My mother had died in a rural hospital. If better emergency response systems had existed, then would outcomes have been different? The thought sat heavy in my chest. But with 35 million, I could fund free systems for those hospitals myself. I argued, partly to myself. Could you, Emma challenged gently, or would Hartwell's contracts prevent you from competing? They're famous for ironclad non-competes. You'd have money, but no ability to help the sector you care about. My phone rang, James with perfect timing. Conference me in, he said. I'm with our lawyer. I put him on speaker with Emma's permission. Here's the deal, Hadi, our lawyer Michelle said without preamble. Hartwell's offer includes a 5-year non-compete for all founding members. You couldn't work in emergency response medical technology or any adjacent field. They're essentially buying your silence along with your company. For 70 million, I said. For 70 million, she confirmed. Also, they want to retain key staff for a transition, but plan to eliminate most positions within 18 months. Your team would be unemployed by next Christmas. I thought about our staff, the brilliant developers who'd believed in our vision, the former EMTs who joined us to make a difference, the support team who worked tirelessly to help hospitals implement our system. What about intellectual property? James asked. Full transfer. They'd own every innovation, every line of code, every process we developed. And here's the kicker they're already in talks to. License it exclusively to their subsidiary that provides private emergency services to wealthy communities. Bar private emergency services, I repeated, feeling sick. Think concierge medicine, but for 911 calls, Michelle explained. Faster response for those who can pay premium rates. Everything we'd built to democratize emergency response would be used to create a 2-tier system. The rich would get better care while the poor suffered with outdated methods. I need time to think, I said. You have until 5, and Michelle reminded me. But, Lynette, in my experience, when a deal feels wrong in your gut, it usually is. After we hung up, Emma and I sat in her office, both lost in thought. Finally, she spoke. What would your mother want? It was the right question. Mom had spent her final years in and out of hospitals, dependent on emergency services more times than I could count. She'd seen the best and worst of the system. She'd want everyone to have the same chance at life, I said quietly. Rich or poor, urban or rural, she'd hate the idea of premium emergency services. Then you have your answer, Emma said simply. But the money? Will you really be able to enjoy it, knowing it came from denying care to people like your mother? She asked gently. Money without mission is just numbers in an account. You taught me that. when you stopped to save my life. You could have driven past, stayed dry, protected yourself. Instead, you chose mission over comfort. My phone buzzed. A text from William. Mommy is crying again. She says we have to leave our house. Will you help us? The $10 million difference suddenly felt very real. That money could secure not just William and Megan's future, but help every family member Marcus had destroyed. I know what you're thinking, Emma said, reading my expression. The extra money could help your family, but at what cost? And haven't you already proven that real help isn't about money? You're teaching them to rebuild with integrity. How does it look if you sell out for cash? She was right, but it didn't make the choice easier. As if sensing my turmoil, Emma stood. Come with me, she said. I want to show you something. She led me through the hospital to the pediatric ward. In a corner room, a young boy was connected to monitors, his mother holding his hand. Timmy came in 3 nights ago, Emma explained quietly. Severe asthma attack. Rural family nearest hospital 40 minutes away, but their local clinic had your software. The EMTs knew exactly what to prepare, had the right medications ready. Those minutes mattered. The mother looked up, noticing us. Her eyes were red from crying, but filled with gratitude. He's going to be okay, she said, as if she still couldn't believe it. They said if it had taken even 5 minutes longer. Your system saved him, Emma told me simply. Not Hartwell's profits, not premium services. Your vision of equal access to life-saving technology. We left the family in peace, but the image stayed with me. Timmy could have been William or Megan. Could have been any child in any family deserving of the best chance at life regardless of their zip code or bank account. Back in Emma's office, I made my decision. Call MedConnect. Tell them we accept their offer of $30 million. Emma smiled, relief evident on her face. You're sure? I'm sure, I said, feeling lighter already. Money I can make again. Integrity, once sold, is harder to recover. I'll call them now, she said, reaching for her phone. And Lynette. This is why we want you running the expansion, because you understand that success isn't measured in dollars, but in lives saved. As she made the call, I texted James, MedConnect, $30 million. The mission matters more. His response was immediate. Never doubted you'd choose right. Proud to be your partner. Then I texted Sarah, decision made. We'll help with apartment search tomorrow. Focus on what matters, family, not money. Her response surprised me. I'm beginning to understand that. Thank you for showing us. The irony wasn't lost on me. The family that had mocked me for having no ambition was watching me turn down $40 million extra on principle. Sometimes the best lessons were taught through actions, not words. Emma finished her call. Done. MedConnect is thrilled. They're drawing up final papers for Monday. What now? I asked. Now we celebrate, she said. But first, there's someone who wants to talk to you. She handed me her phone. On the screen was an older woman with kind eyes and Emma's bone structure. Mrs. Harrison, I guessed. Call me Diana, she said warmly. Emma's told me so much about you. I wanted to thank you personally, not just for saving my daughter, but for maintaining the integrity of your vision. MedConnect exists because of people like you, people who understand that healthcare is a right, not a luxury. Thank you for believing in what we built, I said, touched by her words. I'm not just believing in it, Diana said. I'm committing another $20 million to expand the rural access program. Every critical access hospital in the country should have your system within 2 years. I couldn't finish the sentence. It was everything we dreamed of when starting the company. It's what Emma would have wanted if she died in that car, Diana said simply. For no other family to suffer because help was too far away. You gave me my daughter back. Let me help you give that gift to others. After we hung up, Emma and I sat in companionable silence. The emergency department hummed with activity beyond her window, each patient representing a life that mattered, a family that waited, a future that hung in balance. Hartwell will be furious, Emma noted with some satisfaction. They'll survive, I said. They'll find another company to buy and strip, but they won't get ours. My phone rang. Thomas. I just heard, he said without preamble. You turned down 70 million. Sarah told me why. And I prompted curious about his reaction. And I'm proud to be your brother, he said, his voice thick with emotion. For the first time in years, genuinely proud. You just showed us what real success looks like. It's just business. I deflected, uncomfortable with the praise. No, he corrected. It's character. It's choosing right over rich. It's everything we forgot while chasing Marcus's mirages. Lynette. I got the Patterson job. Entry level, half the salary, but honest work. You inspired that. You chose that, I said. I just showed you it was possible. Same thing, he said. Listen, Jessica's willing to try counseling. Says if you can help us after everything she can try forgiving me, we're going to sell the house, downsize, start over. Real, this time. I'm glad, I said, meaning it. The kids need their parents together and healthy. Speaking of kids, William wants to know if you'll come to his school play next week. He's playing a tree, but he's very excited about it. I wouldn't miss it, I promised. After we hung up, Emma grinned at me. Look at you, the family healer, saving lives in the ER and the living room. Trying to, I admitted, though medical emergencies are often simpler than family dynamics. Truth, she laughed. Give me a trauma surgery over family therapy any day. We talked for another hour about the expansion plans, the rural access program, the potential for international growth. Every idea built on our core mission, emergency care as a universal right, not a premium service. By the time I left the hospital, the afternoon sun was slanting through the windows, painting everything golden. My phone showed missed calls from reporters who'd somehow heard about the Hartwell rejection. Tomorrow, the business press would have opinions about walking away from $40 million. But tonight, I had dinner plans with the trauma team, the real heroes who used our tools to save lives. Tonight, I'd help Sarah look at apartments online, something in a good school district that they could actually afford. Tonight, I'd video call William and hear about his tree costume. Tomorrow, I'd be $15 million richer on paper. But today, I was already wealthy in ways that mattered more. The trust of partners who shared my values. The respect of family who finally saw me clearly. The knowledge that somewhere in some small town, a child like Timmy would make it home because we chose mission over money. As I drove home, I passed the exit for the cemetery where Mom was buried. On impulse, I took it. Standing at her grave, I told her about everything. The company, the sale, the family crisis, the choices made and unmade. You always said that integrity was doing the right thing when no one was watching, I said to the headstone. Today, everyone was watching and I still tried to choose right. I hope that makes you proud. The wind rustled through the trees and for a moment, I could almost hear her voice. You were always enough, Lynette. Success was just you finally seeing it too. I left the cemetery as the sun set, heading home to my simple apartment that actually belonged to me. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and contracts and wire transfers that would change my bank balance forever. But tonight, I was just Lynette Morgan, the woman who stopped to help the sister who chose forgiveness, the partner who picked purpose. And that was worth more than all the money Hartwell could offer. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Emma. By the way, the trauma team voted. You're getting an honorary Halloween costume next year. Hero cape, non-negotiable. I laughed, really laughed. Maybe heroes did wear capes sometimes. Or maybe they just wore determination and made choices that mattered. Either way, I was finally comfortable with who I'd become. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that makes everything feel possible. I woke early not from anxiety, but from anticipation. Today, Sarah and I would look at apartments. Today, we'd start rebuilding on solid ground. My doorbell rang at 7 a.m. earlier than we'd planned. Through the peephole, I saw a face I hadn't expected. James. Morning, partner, he said when I opened the door. He held 2 coffees and a bakery bag. Thought you might need fuel for apartment hunting. Also, we need to talk. Something in his expression made my stomach tighten. Is there a problem with the deal? Not exactly, he said, following me inside. But Hartwell didn't take rejection well. They're making noise about hostile takeover possibilities. Can they do that? I asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. Not easily. We structured the company ownership specifically to prevent it, but they're also spreading rumors about why we rejected their offer, claiming we must have financial irregularities to walk away from that much money. Of course they are, I sighed. Heaven forbid someone make a decision based on values instead of dollars. James smiled. That's actually why I'm here. I have an idea, but it involves going public with our story. All of it, including why we broke up, why we work better as business partners, the whole truth. I studied him over my coffee cup. James Chen, brilliant developer, terrible romantic partner, perfect business collaborator. Our 18-month engagement had been a disaster of missed signals and misaligned life goals. But our business partnership, that was magic. What kind of public? I asked. Business Week wants an exclusive. The real story behind medtech innovations. They're particularly interested in how former romantic partners built a $50 million company together. 30 million, I corrected. Right, because we chose mission over money, he grinned. Even better story. What do you think? I think my family's having enough public drama without adding our history to it, I said honestly. Or, he countered, we control the narrative. Show that relationships can evolve, that failure in one area doesn't mean failure in all areas. Might even help your family see that starting over isn't the same as giving up. He had a point. Sarah and Thomas were both struggling with the shame of public failure. Maybe seeing James and me as an example of transformation rather than destruction could help. When would they want to do it? I asked. Wednesday, after the deal closes Monday. That way, we're talking about success and choices, not family drama or potential sales. Can we approve the final article? Already negotiated that, he said proudly. No surprises, just truth. Let me think about it, I said. Right now I need to focus on Sarah. As if on cue, my phone rang, Sarah sounding panicked. Lynette, I can't do this. I was up all night looking at apartments online. They're all terrible. The kids will hate me. I can't put them through this. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said calmly. We'll look together. Why are you helping me? She asked, her voice breaking. I was horrible to you. For years. Because that's what we do, I said simply. We show up. After hanging up, I looked at James. Want to come apartment hunting? You always had good instincts about neighborhoods. Sure, he agreed. Besides, I'm curious to meet the sister who thought we were both failures. Should be interesting. The drive to Sarah's house, possibly her last week there, felt different in daylight. The neighborhood that had seemed so impressive now looked like what it was, a facade of wealth built on debt and deception. Sarah answered the door in sweats, and no makeup more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. Her eyes widened when she saw James. This is my business partner, I said simply. James, my sister Sarah. The ex-fiancé. Sarah blurted, then flushed. I'm sorry that was rude. Also accurate, James said easily. Nice to finally meet you. Lynette's told me absolutely nothing about you, which probably says everything. Sarah flinched but nodded. I deserve that. Where are the kids? I asked, changing the subject. Jessica took them to the park with Thomas and their cousins, giving me space to fall apart, I think. Then let's use that space productively, I suggested. I've lined up 5 apartments to view, all in good school districts, all within budget. Budget, Sarah repeated. I hate that word. It's not a curse word, James said mildly. It's a tool, like a map. Helps you get where you're going without getting lost. We spent the morning driving from apartment to apartment. The first 2 were immediately rejected, one for being too small, another for being too close to train tracks. The third was better, a 2-bedroom in a converted Victorian with character and charm. The kids would have to share a room, Sarah said, standing in what would be their space. So did Lynette and I growing up, I reminded her. We survived. You turned out better than I did, she said quietly. I turned out different, I corrected. Not better, just different. The fourth apartment was in a complex with a playground and pool. Sarah's eyes lit up slightly, seeing the amenities. The kids would like this, she admitted. There's a waiting list, the property manager informed us, unless you can pay first, last, and security today. Sarah's face fell. I can't. Not with Marcus's accounts frozen. I said, pulling out my checkbook. Consider it a loan. Interest-free payment starts when you're working. That's $6,000, Sarah protested. Yes, I agreed, writing the check. It is. The property manager's attitude shifted immediately, seeing the check clear. Suddenly, we were valuable customers rather than desperate applicants. As we toured the amenities, James fell back with me. You know she might never pay you back, right? I know, I said, but this isn't about money. It's about those kids having somewhere safe to sleep next week. You're a better person than most, he observed. No, I disagreed. I just remember what it's like to need help and not get it. The fifth apartment was the winner, a townhouse-style unit in a family-friendly complex. Good schools, reasonable commute to downtown where Sarah would hopefully find work. 3 bedrooms, so the kids could have their own spaces. It's $1,200 more than the budget, the agent noted. Sarah's shoulders sagged. Of course it is. We'll take it, I said firmly. Draw up the papers. Lynette, no, Sarah protested. You've already done too much. The kids need stability, I said. Oh, this provides it. Decision made. As the agent prepared paperwork, Sarah pulled me aside. Why are you doing this? Really? Because Mom would have, I said simply. Because family means showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I wasn't family to you, she said, tears starting. I was cruel. I excluded you. I made you eat in the kitchen like someone you saw as beneath you, I finished. Yes, you did, and it hurt. But holding on to that hurt doesn't help anyone heal. How do you forgive that? She asked desperately. How do you move past it? By moving forward, I said. By choosing to be different starting now. You can't change yesterday, Sarah, but you can choose tomorrow. James had been examining the unit with a critical eye. Good bones, he announced. Decent light. The schools really are excellent. This could work. You sound like you're evaluating an investment, Sarah said. Everything's an investment, James replied. Time, money, energy, forgiveness. The question is what return you're seeking. Financial, emotional, social? I don't know anymore, Sarah admitted. I used to think I knew. Marcus had all the answers. Success meant this, happiness meant that. Now I don't even know who I am without those definitions. That's the perfect place to start, I said. Not knowing means you get to choose instead of following someone else's script. We signed papers, transferred utilities, arranged for movers. By afternoon, Sarah had keys to her new home. Standing in the empty living room, she looked lost and found simultaneously. I need to get a job, she said suddenly. A real job, not just something Marcus arranges with his connections. What did you do before Marcus? James asked. Marketing, she said, almost surprised by her own answer. I was good at it too, made junior vice president at 28. Then I met Marcus, and he said his wife shouldn't work. Skills don't disappear, I noted. They just get dusty. Update your resume, reach out to old contacts. Someone will remember the woman you were before you became who he wanted. The woman I was, Sarah repeated wonderingly. I barely remember her. Then it's time to get reacquainted, I suggested. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Where furniture would go, what the kids would need, how to make a smaller space feel like home rather than defeat. James proved surprisingly helpful, his analytical mind breaking down problems into manageable pieces. You two work well together, Sarah observed at one point. Why didn't it work romantically? James and I exchanged glances. Because we wanted different things, I said carefully. I wanted a traditional relationship, James elaborated. House kid, standard life progression. Lynette wanted to save the world. Turns out we were both right, just not for each other romantically. But as business partners, I added, perfect match. He builds the how, I provide the why. Must have been hard, Sarah said, admitting it wasn't working. Hardest conversation of my life, James admitted. Also the most important. We could have forced it, gotten married, made each other miserable. Instead, we chose honesty. And built something better than a failed marriage, I added. We built a partnership that actually works. Sarah's phone rang. Thomas with updates from the park. William wants to know if the new house has a yard, she relayed. Tell him it has a playground and a pool, I said. Even better than a yard. She did, and I could hear William's excited response through the phone. Children adapted so quickly when given the chance. It was adults who struggled with change. They're coming back, Sarah told us. I should tell them about the apartment. Want us to stay, I offered. No, she decided. This is something I need to do myself. Face their questions, admit the truth, start rebuilding trust. But thank you, both of you. As we prepared to leave, Sarah caught my arm. That woman, the one you saved, her family buying your company. It feels like fate. Or consequence, I suggested. Good actions, creating good results, rippling outward, just like Marcus's lies created bad results that rippled to everyone. I want to create good ripples, she said firmly, for the kids, for myself, maybe even for you someday. Create them for yourself first, I advised. The rest follows naturally. Driving away, James was quiet until we reached the main road. You know what struck me? She never asked about the money. What money? I asked, confused. The Med Connect deal. Yesterday, she knew exactly what you were worth. Today, she didn't mention it once. Progress. Maybe, I allowed, or maybe she's just too overwhelmed to think about it. I prefer to think people can change, James said. After all we did, from failed couple to successful partners. If we can transform failure into success, maybe she can too. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Family dinner tonight at my place, Dad's cooking. He insists you're family now. I showed James the text. Wanna come, fair warning? Mr. Harrison is intense. The man who exposed your sister's lies? James grinned. Absolutely. I want to shake his hand. Be nice, I warned. He was just protecting his property. While protecting you in the process, James pointed out. Sometimes the best help comes from unexpected places. As we drove toward Emma's house, I thought about unexpected places and transformed relationships. A year ago, James and I were failed lovers trying to build a company. Sarah and I were estranged sisters, pretending the other didn't exist. The Harrisons were strangers I'd never meet again. Now, James was my trusted partner in a multi-million-dollar exit. Sarah was taking her first honest steps in years. The Harrisons were chosen family offering Sunday dinner. Change was possible. Growth was possible. Even forgiveness was possible. My phone rang. William from Sarah's phone. Aunt Lynette Mommy says we're moving to a house with a pool. Is that true? It's true, I confirmed. Are you excited? Super excited, and Mommy says you helped find it. You're the best aunt ever. Just an aunt who loves you? I said, throat tight with emotion. I love you too, he said, simply then added in a whisper. Mommy's crying again, but she says they're happy tears this time. Happy tears. Maybe that was progress enough for one day. Give her a hug from me, I said. And William, you're going to love the new house. I already do, he said confidently, because you picked it for us. After he hung up, James glanced at me. Happy tears yourself. Shut up, I said, wiping my eyes. It's been an emotional weekend. The best kind, he said gently, the kind where people choose better. We drove on toward dinner with chosen family, leaving behind a sister choosing to rebuild and a nephew choosing to trust. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and contracts and life-changing money. But today brought something better, proof that people could change, families could heal, and partnerships could transcend their original forms. Hey, Lynette, James said as we parked at Emma's house. For what it's worth, I'm proud to be your partner, in business and in friendship. Same, I said, meaning it completely. Now let's go have dinner with people who see us clearly. Our favorite kind, he agreed. We walked toward the door together, partners in the truest sense, ready for whatever came next. Emma's house radiated warmth from every window, a stark contrast to the cold perfection of Sarah's former residence. Mr. Harrison answered the door wearing an apron that read, "World's Okayest Cook," his dignified presence making the joke even funnier. "Lynette James," he greeted warmly. "Welcome to our controlled chaos. Emma's attempting to help with dinner, which means I'm doing damage control." I heard that Emma's voice called from the kitchen, followed by the distinct smell of something burning. "Case in point," Mr. Harrison sighed. "Please come in. Save me from my daughter's culinary adventures." The house felt lived in and loved, with medical journals scattered next to cooking magazines, family photos competing for wall space with Emma's degrees. It was successful without being showy, accomplished without arrogance. "Wine," Mr. Harrison offered, leading us to the kitchen, where Emma was frantically waving a dish towel at the smoke detector. "I just turned my back for 1 second," she protested. "To answer 3 pages from the hospital," her father corrected fondly. "Lynette James, I apologize. We're usually more coordinated." "It's perfect," I said honestly. "Real life happening in real time." James had already moved to help Emma with whatever was burning, his problem-solving instincts kicking in. Within minutes, he'd salvaged the situation and earned Emma's gratitude. "You should cook with us every Sunday," she declared. "Dad needs backup." "Careful," I warned. "James takes all invitations literally. You'll never get rid of him." "Promise," Emma grinned. "I like having family around." Family. The word settled differently here than it had at Sarah's. Here it meant choice and warmth, not obligation and judgment. We managed to get dinner on the table without further disasters. The conversation flowed easily, touching on the hospital, the company sale, everything except the elephant I knew was coming. Finally, over dessert, Mr. Harrison set down his fork. "Lynette, there's something I need to tell you about your sister's property situation." "More bad news?" I asked, bracing myself. "Complicated news," he corrected. "In investigating Marcus's fraud, my team discovered something interesting. Several of his property deals involved buildings you have connections to." "What kind of connections?" James asked, immediately protective. Mr. Harrison pulled out a tablet showing property records. "This building here, the one housing Wellington Development's offices, you own it." I nearly choked on my wine. "That's impossible. I don't own any commercial real estate." "Actually, you do," he continued. "Through a trust your mother established before she died. She used part of her life insurance to purchase it, naming you as beneficiary, but keeping it confidential until her estate was fully settled." My mind reeled. "Mom bought a building. Why wouldn't the estate lawyer tell me?" "Because the trust had specific conditions," Mr. Harrison explained. "It only transferred to you after 5 years, which was 6 months ago. The management company has been handling everything, depositing rent into an account in the trust's name." "Rent from Marcus," I said slowly. "I've been Marcus's landlord." "For 6 months," Mr. Harrison confirmed. "And here's where it gets interesting. He's been paying significantly below market rate, claiming hardship discounts. The management company accepted it because they didn't realize the ownership had changed." James whistled low. "How much below market?" "About 60%, Mr. Harrison said. He's been underpaying by roughly $15,000 per month. $15,000 a month? I felt lightheaded. That's $90,000 he owes just from the underpayment. "Plus the 3 months he hasn't paid at all," Emma added. "That's another $45,000 at the proper rate." "So my brother-in-law owes me over $100,000, I said numbly, while living in a house he couldn't afford and making my sister forge my signature. "It gets worse," Mr. Harrison said gently, "or better depending on perspective. You have the legal right to evict his company immediately for non-payment. Given his bankruptcy filing, you're actually one of his largest creditors. The irony was staggering. While they'd mocked me for having nothing, I'd owned the building housing their supposed empire. While they'd excluded me from family gatherings I'd been entitled to rent, they weren't paying. Oh, there's more, Mr. Harrison continued. Your mother's trust owns 3 other properties, 2 residential buildings in developing neighborhoods, and another commercial space currently leased to a medical clinic. Mom was buying real estate. I couldn't process it. She never mentioned investments. Look at the dates, Emma suggested, pointing to the records. I studied them, and the pattern became clear. Every purchase was made after I'd started caring for her, all in neighborhoods near hospitals or medical facilities. She was investing in medical districts. I breathed. Places where healthcare workers would need housing, where clinics would need space. Your mother was remarkably shrewd, Mr. Harrison observed. The portfolio is worth approximately $4 million now. $4 million, on top of the company sale. My mother had been building wealth while I thought we were barely surviving. Why didn't she tell me I asked more to myself than them? There's a letter, Mr. Harrison said, producing an envelope. The trust lawyer was supposed to give it to you when the property's transferred. Apparently, there was a clerical error. My hands shook as I opened it, Mom's handwriting careful despite her illness. My dearest Lynette, if you're reading this, then 5 years have passed and you've survived without me. I knew you would. You're stronger than you know. These properties are my thank you. While your siblings chased their father's approval through flash and status, you chose love. You gave up your dreams to give me peace. That sacrifice deserves more than words. But I also know you, my practical girl. You would have refused if I'd told you, would have insisted the money go to your siblings, so I kept it secret, letting you believe we had nothing while I invested everything I could spare. The buildings are in medical districts because that's where you belong. Near hospitals, near help, near hope. Whether you keep them or sell them, use them to build the life you deserve. Your siblings got their father's charm and ambition. You got my heart and wisdom. Time will show which inheritance matters more. All my love, Mom. I couldn't see through the tears. James's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Emma discreetly passed tissues while her father refilled wine glasses. She knew, I whispered. She knew how they treated me, and she did this. Mothers see everything, Emma said softly, even when we think they don't. So what do I do? I asked. Evict Marcus's company, demand the back rent. What do you want to do? Mr. Harrison asked. I thought about William and Megan, innocent in all this. About Sarah trying to rebuild honestly. About Thomas swallowing his pride for an entry-level job. I want to be fair, I said finally. Not generous, not punitive. Fair. Then here's my suggestion, Mr. Harrison said. Give Marcus's company 30 days to vacate. Waive the back rent in exchange for him not contesting the eviction. Clean break, no extended legal battles. That's more than fair, James noted. It's generous, considering. And the other properties? I asked. The residential buildings are fully rented, well-maintained. Keep them as income properties or sell them. The clinic space is month to month with a nonprofit health center. Your call. My call. After years of having no choices, I suddenly had too many. Can I think about it? I asked. Of course, Mr. Harrison smiled, though I'd recommend getting your own property management company. The current one clearly isn't protecting your interests. I know someone, Emma offered. My mother's best friend runs an ethical property management firm. She specializes in medical district properties. Of course she does. I laughed, feeling slightly hysterical. Is there anything your family doesn't have covered? Cooking, Emma admitted. We definitely don't have that covered. The tension broke with laughter. We finished dessert conversation, flowing to lighter topics, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mom quietly building a future for me while I thought I was sacrificing mine for her. She played a long game, James observed as we helped clear dishes. Your mother, seeing years ahead while everyone else focused on days. She always did that, I agreed. Planned gardens in winter, save for rain during sunshine. Emma's phone buzzed. She checked it and frowned. Speaking of long games, guess who's trying to reach me? Patricia Winters from Goldman Sachs. The one representing Hartwell Durree, I asked. The same. She says Hartwell wants to meet tomorrow. All parties. They have a new proposal that addresses our concerns. Do they know about the property situation, James wondered? Possibly, Mr. Harrison said. News travels fast in financial circles. Lynette's net worth just increased significantly. That might change their approach. Or make them more aggressive, I worried. Only one way to find out, Emma said. Should we take the meeting? I looked around the table at these people who'd become my chosen family. Emma, who saw potential beyond circumstances. Her father, who protected the vulnerable. James, who transformed failure into partnership. We take it, I decided, but on our terms, our lawyer present. No surprises. I'll set it up, Emma nodded. 10 a.m. MedConnect's offices, neutral ground. The rest of the evening passed pleasantly, but my mind kept circling back to the revelations. By the time James and I left, my head was spinning with numbers and possibilities. You okay? He asked as we sat in his car. It's a lot to process. I own buildings, I said, still not quite believing it. While they mocked me for being poor, I owned the building they worked in. The universe has a sense of humor, he agreed, or your mother was a genius. Both, I decided. Definitely both. My phone rang. Thomas. Lynette, I'm sorry to call so late, but Jessica and I have been talking about the sale, about your success, about everything. We want to say thank you. For what? I asked, surprised. For showing us what integrity looks like, he said simply. Jessica's agreed to counseling because she saw you helping despite everything. That's huge for us. I'm glad, I said sincerely. The kids need their parents whole. There's something else, he continued. Patterson Industries called back. The position is actually better than entry level. Turns out my honesty about the situation impressed them. They're offering a mid-level role with growth potential. Thomas, that's wonderful. I meant it completely. When do you start? Next Monday, same day your deal closes. New beginnings all around. Mom would like that, I said without thinking. Yeah, he agreed softly. She would. Lynette, I love you. I should have said it more when it wasn't connected to needing something. I love you too, I said throat tight. Now go celebrate with your wife. After we hung up, James drove me home in comfortable silence. As we pulled up to my building, he turned to face me. You know everything's about to change, right? He said. The money at the properties, the public attention, you ready for that? No, I admitted, but I wasn't ready to save Emma either. Wasn't ready to lose Mom. Wasn't ready to build a company. Ready is overrated. Fair point, he smiled. Just remember, you don't have to do it alone. You've got a team now, a real one. I know, I said, grateful beyond words. That's the biggest change of all. I went to bed that night thinking about transformations. Marcus from mogul to criminal, Sarah from socialite to job seeker, Thomas from corporate climber to honest employee, James and me from failed lovers to successful partners. And Mom, the biggest transformation of all, from dying patient to secret real estate investor, from perceived burden to ultimate provider. Tomorrow would bring Hartwell and their schemes. Monday would bring millions and major changes. But tonight I had a letter from my mother and the knowledge that love multiplied in ways we couldn't always see. The woman who'd eaten alone in the kitchen owned the building they'd worked in. The college dropout had built something worth millions. The family failure had become the family foundation. Mom had seen it all along. Now, finally, so did everyone else. I woke at 5 a.m. to my phone buzzing insistently, 17 missed calls from an unknown number. My heart raced, immediate worst-case scenarios flooding my mind. William Megan, Had something happened? The voicemail was unexpected. Ms. Morgan, this is Channel 9 News. We're running a story about your family's financial situation and would love your comment about being the secret landlord to Wellington Development. Please call us back. My blood ran cold. The media had found out. Before I could process this, my phone rang again. Sarah panicked. Lynette, there are reporters outside the house. They're asking about Marcus, about you, about some buildings. What do I do? Don't answer the door, I said, already pulling on clothes. Don't talk to anyone. I'm on my way. But the kids need to get to school. We'll figure it out. Just stay inside. I called James while driving. The media knows. I saw, he said grimly. Business Journal posted an article an hour ago. From kitchen to corporation, the hidden wealth of Lynette Morgan. They have everything. The properties, the company sale, the family dynamics. How? I asked, though I suspected I knew. Has to be someone from Hartwell, he said. Classic tactic. Can't buy you out, expose you publicly, make your life difficult enough that you'll sell just for peace. Is that their new proposal? I asked bitterly. Harassment until we cave. Probably part of it, he admitted. Emma's already at the office with lawyers. The meeting's still on, but now we know their first move. I arrived at Sarah's rental house to find 3 news vans outside. Reporters perked up seeing my car, recognizing me from whatever photos they'd found. Ms. Morgan, is it true you own millions in real estate? Did you know your sister forged your signature? How does it feel to be the secret millionaire of the family? I ignored them all, pushing through to the door. Sarah let me in immediately, looking haggard. They've been here since 6, she whispered. William's scared. He doesn't understand why people are shouting questions. I found both kids in the living room, still in pajamas, watching cartoons with the volume too high. Their normal morning routine shattered by adult complications. Hey, loves, I said, sitting between them. Crazy morning, huh? There are people with cameras outside, Megan said solemnly, like when Daddy went with the police. My heart broke. These children had seen too much already. Yeah, sometimes adults make big messes and other adults want to talk about it, I explained. But you know what? We're going to have an adventure instead. Want to have breakfast at my house? Can we? William perked up. You have the good cereal. I do indeed, I smiled. Let's get you dressed and we'll sneak out the back like ninjas. While Sarah packed school bags, I called Jessica. She agreed to pick the kids up from my place, take them to school the back way. Thomas was already at Patterson Industries for orientation, blissfully unaware of the media storm. We managed to get the kids out through the back gate and into my car without being seen. Small victories in a morning of chaos. Oh, this is insane, Sarah said as we drove away. How did they find out everything so fast? Money makes people curious, I said carefully, and our family drama is apparently newsworthy. Our family drama, she repeated. Because of me, because I couldn't see Marcus for what he was. Because of choices we all made, I corrected. You're not responsible for his crimes, Sarah, just your own actions. At my apartment, normalcy briefly returned. The kids ate cereal, got dressed for school, chattered about their upcoming activities. Children's resilience never ceased to amaze me. Jessica arrived looking composed despite the circumstances. Thomas called. Patterson's PR department is handling media requests about him. They're being supportive. Good, I said, relieved he had some protection. The kids don't need any more disruption. After they left for school, Sarah and I sat in my living room, both exhausted despite the early hour. I have a job interview tomorrow, she said quietly, with a marketing firm downtown, but if this media attention continues, it'll pass, I assured her. Today's news, tomorrow's fish wrapper. Do people still wrap fish in newspaper? She asked, a ghost of humor appearing. Probably not, but Mom's saying stick around. My phone buzzed. Emma texting updates from the office. Hartwell's team had arrived early, setting up in the conference room like they owned the place. Power plays already starting. I have to go, I told Sarah. Will you be okay here? Yeah, she said. Your apartment feels safe, like you. Stay as long as you need, I offered. There's food in the fridge, coffee in the cabinet. Make yourself at home. Home, she repeated softly. I'm not sure I know what that means anymore. Then we'll figure it out together, I said, squeezing her shoulder, after I deal with corporate sharks who think exposure equals weakness. Are you worried? She asked. No, I said honestly. They're playing checkers while we're playing chess. They see the properties and the money. They don't see what really matters, which is purpose, I said simply, knowing why we built what we built. They can expose every detail of my life, but they can't change the fact that our software saves lives. That's the power they'll never have. I left Sarah in my apartment, a strange reversal of all the times she'd left me out. But this felt right, extending shelter when storms came regardless of past weather. The drive to MedConnect's offices was surprisingly peaceful. I'd expected more media attention, but apparently they were still camped at various family locations. Small mercies. Emma met me in the lobby looking fierce in her power suit. Ready for battle. Ready for truth, I corrected. Let them make their threats. We know who we are. The conference room was corporate warfare staging ground. Hartwell's team occupied one side of the massive table, Patricia Winters, 2 other executives, and enough lawyers to staff a small firm. Our side looked sparse in comparison. Emma James, our lawyer, Michelle, and me. Ms. Morgan? Patricia greeted with a shark smile. Thank you for meeting despite this morning's unfortunate media attention. Unfortunate, I repeated. Is that what we're calling targeted harassment now? We had nothing to do with that, she said smoothly, though we understand how difficult public scrutiny can be. Which brings us to our new proposal. She slid a folder across the table. $85 million, $15 million above our last offer. In exchange, complete acquisition, including all intellectual property, plus a more reasonable non-compete of 2 years instead of 5. James opened the folder, scanning quickly, and in return... You disappear, Patricia said bluntly. Take your money sign, comprehensive NDAs, and step away from the emergency response sector entirely. No interviews, no explanations, no continued involvement. You want to buy our silence, Emma clarified, along with our company. We want a clean acquisition without ongoing drama, Patricia corrected. Your personal situations have become liabilities. This morning's news is just the beginning. Every detail of your family's issues, your mother's death, your failed engagement, your secret real estate holdings, it'll all be dissected publicly. Is that a threat? Michelle asked, lawyer instincts engaged. It's reality, Patricia said. The media loves a riches to riches story with family drama. Unless, of course, the principals involved are bound by ironclad NDAs that prevent them from speaking to media at all. I felt the anger rise, but kept my voice steady. So, your new proposal is essentially blackmail. Take your money and shut up or face continued harassment. Ugh, such ugly words. Patricia smiled. We prefer to think of it as a premium for privacy protection. You know what I prefer? I stood gathering my things, building something that matters, working with people who see value beyond dollar signs. Your $85 million comes with strings that strangle everything we built. No amount of money is worth that. Sit down, Ms. Morgan, Patricia's voice sharpened. You haven't heard everything. I've heard enough, I said. You want to buy our company and bury it. Make it exclusive to whoever pays most while people die waiting for help that should be universal. That's not a business proposal. It's a moral failure. Morality doesn't pay bills, one of their executives interjected. No, I agreed, but it lets you sleep at night. Can you say the same? Emma stood with me. MedConnect's offer stands at $30 million. No NDAs beyond standard business confidentiality. No forced silence. No burying the technology. Take it or leave it. You're making a mistake, Patricia warned. The media attention will only intensify. Your sister's fraud, your brother-in-law's crimes, your secret wealth while claiming poverty. The public loves to tear down those they've built up. Then they'll have to tear, James said, standing too, because we're not selling our souls for your protection money. We walked out together, leaving Hartwell's team scrambling. In the elevator, Emma started laughing. Did you see Patricia's face? I don't think anyone's ever walked out on her before. Fuss felt good, I admitted, though she's right about the media intensity. Let them come, James said firmly. We've got nothing to hide. My phone was already buzzing with texts. The rejected offer would be public within hours. Hartwell would make sure of it, painting us as unreasonable idealists who rejected reasonable money. But reasonable had different definitions. For them, it meant maximum profit. For us, it meant maximum impact. The gap between those definitions was worth more than $15 million. Back in the MedConnect offices, Emma's team was energized rather than discouraged. If Hartwell's that desperate, it means we're sitting on something more valuable than we thought, one investor noted. The question is, can you weather the storm they're about to unleash, another said. They play dirty when they don't get their way. We'll manage, I said, thinking of Mom's quiet strength during chemo. We've weathered worse than corporate tantrums. The rest of the morning was strategic planning. Legal preparing for the Monday closing, PR crafting responses to media inquiries, everyone rallying around the mission rather than the money. Around noon, Michelle pulled me aside. There's something else. In reviewing the property documents, we found another trust. Smaller, more recent. Your mother created it 6 months before she died. Another property? I asked, wondering what else Mom had hidden. Not property, Michelle said. A foundation. The Morgan Family Foundation for Emergency Medical Access. Initial funding of $200,000. Purpose providing emergency medical equipment to underserved communities. I sank into a chair. Mom had been planning this all along. While I thought we were just surviving, she was building a legacy of help. There's a letter with this one, too, Michelle said gently, handing me another envelope. Mom's handwriting shakier this time. Lynette, by now you've found the buildings and hopefully forgiven my secrecy. This foundation is my final gift, not just to you, but through you. I watched you save that young woman on the highway, watched you stay calm, use skills learned from my illness to help a stranger. That's when I knew what your true calling was, not just caring for one dying woman, but helping save many. This foundation is small, but roots don't need to be large to grow mighty trees. Use it to help those who can't help themselves. Expand access to emergency care. Make sure no family watches someone die simply because help was too far away. Your siblings chase wealth. You create it through compassion. Never doubt which matters more. Mom! This time, I didn't try to stop the tears. Mom had seen my future before I had planting seeds I was only now discovering. A foundation, Emma breathed, reading over my shoulder. That's perfect. We can use it to provide free systems to rural hospitals, fund training programs, ensure access regardless of ability to pay. Hartwell would hate that James noted with satisfaction, giving away what they want to hoard. My phone rang. Sarah. The reporters found your apartment, she said. I'm sorry I don't know how, but Lynette, I did something. What kind of something? I asked, worried. I talked to them, she said in a rush. Not about you, about me. About how I failed as a sister, how greed and pride destroyed our family, how you're helping us rebuild despite everything. I thought if I owned my part, maybe they'd stop hounding you. Sarah. I started, not sure if I was touched or terrified. I know I should have asked first, she continued, but watching you stand up to everyone helping us when we don't deserve it, I wanted to do something right for once, even if it's just telling the truth about my own failures. What did they ask about? The forgery, mostly. I admitted it, took full responsibility, said you were the victim, not the villain. They seemed surprised by the honesty. Of course they were. In a world of spin and denial, truth was unexpected. "Are you angry?" she asked in a small voice. "No," I said, surprising myself. "Proud, actually. Owning your mistakes publicly takes courage." "I learned it from you," she said simply. "You owned your choices even when we mocked them. Turns out you were right all along." After we hung up, I looked around the conference room at these people who'd become my team. Sarah just gave an interview taking responsibility for the forgery. "Well, that's unexpected," Michelle said carefully. "She's trying to change," I explained, "to be worthy of the help she's receiving. That's all any of us can do right. Try to be worthy of the chances we're given." The afternoon brought more media requests, more strategic planning, more confirmation that Monday's closing would proceed as planned. Hartwell leaked their rejected offer as expected, painting us as unreasonable idealists. But something interesting happened. The narrative began shifting. Sarah's honest interview, combined with stories of our software's impact, created a different story. Not riches to riches, but purpose over profit. Not family fraud, but family redemption. By evening, when I finally returned to my apartment, I found Sarah had cleaned everything and left a note. "Thank you for the shelter in all storms. S." William called from their new apartment, excited about the pool, the playground, his new room. Children adapting, finding joy in small things, while adults complicated everything. Aunt Lynette, Mommy got a job. The place she interviewed said yes. "That's wonderful," I said, genuinely thrilled. "Tell her I'm proud of her." "She cried again," he reported, "but happy tears. Lots of happy tears lately." Maybe that was progress. From tears of loss to tears of possibility. From crying alone to crying with purpose. Emma texted as I was making dinner. "Foundation paperwork found. Your mom was brilliant. We can do so much good with this." Yes, we could. Take Hartwell's hunger for exclusive profit and counter it with inclusive access. Take their corporate greed and answer it with community service. My phone rang one last time, an unknown number, but I was too tired to screen calls. "Ms. Morgan, this is Dr. Patricia Coleman from Rural Health Alliance. I saw the news about your company and foundation. We represent 200 critical access hospitals that desperately need emergency response systems. Could we talk?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Absolutely yes." Because this was what Mom had seen. Not just the buildings or the money, but the mission. The chance to turn personal pain into public good. Tomorrow, the media storm would continue. Hartwell would keep pushing. Family drama would unfold. But tonight, I had requests from hospitals that needed help and a foundation designed to provide it. The woman who'd eaten alone in the kitchen was building a longer table. The college dropout was creating access to education. The family failure was succeeding at what mattered most. And somewhere, somehow, I could feel Mom smiling. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that makes everything feel possible. The day of the closing. The day everything would officially change. I dressed carefully, choosing Mom's sapphire earrings, the ones she'd worn to every important occasion. My phone had been silent all night, a blessed reprieve from the media storm. But as I made coffee, it exploded with notifications. Something had happened. Emma called first. "Have you seen the news?" "What now?" I asked, bracing for impact. "It's good news, actually. Someone leaked a video from inside Hartwell's offices. Patricia Winters on a conference call explicitly discussing how to manipulate media to force us to sell. It's gone viral. The public is furious." I pulled up the video on my tablet. There was Patricia in full corporate villain mode. "If we can't buy them out cleanly, we destroy their reputation. Make the grandmother story look like exploitation. Paint the sister as a con artist in training. These bleeding hearts will cave when their families are threatened." "Who leaked it?" I asked, stunned. "No one knows. But Hartwell's in full damage control. They've withdrawn their offer completely and issued an apology for inappropriate tactics." An apology, I repeated. How nice. It gets better. 3 more hospital systems called this morning wanting our software. Apparently, David versus Goliath plays well in healthcare circles. We agreed to meet at the lawyer's office early before the closing. I wanted everything perfect, no surprises. But first, I had promised William something. I drove to Sarah's new apartment, finding her in professional clothes, ready for her first day at the marketing firm. She looked nervous, but determined. "You look perfect," I assured her. "Professional Sarah is back." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "What if I've forgotten everything? What if they realize I'm a fraud?" "You're not a fraud," I said firmly. "You're someone starting over. There's a difference." William bounded out in his school uniform, excited about everything. "Aunt Lynette, are you coming to my play tomorrow? I'm the best tree in the whole forest." I wouldn't miss it, I promised. I'll be the one clapping loudest for the trees. "Mommy has a job now," he announced proudly. "She's going to work like you do? Maybe she'll save people too." Sarah's eyes misted. "Different kind of saving, baby. But yes, Mommy's going to work hard." As I drove them to school, William chattered about his new friends, his teacher, the class pet hamster, normal kid things that felt like miracles after recent chaos. At the drop-off, he hugged me extra tight. "Love you, Aunt Lynette. Thank you for our new house." "Love you too, sweet boy." Sarah watched him run to join his classmates. "He's adjusting so well. Both kids are. They're more resilient than I gave them credit for." "Kids usually are," I noted. "It's adults who complicate things." Speaking of complications," she said carefully, "I heard about Hartwell withdrawing, about the video leak. Lynette, it wasn't. Was it you?" "No," I said honestly. "I have no idea who did it." "Thomas thinks it might have been someone inside Hartwell, someone with a conscience who saw what they were doing to you." Maybe I'm loud, or maybe the universe sometimes provides its own justice. "Like Mom providing for you when everyone thought you had nothing," Sarah suggested. "I've been thinking about that, how she saw what none of us did, how she quietly built your future while we loudly built nothing." "She saw all of us clearly," I said gently, "the good and bad. She just chose to invest in what she believed would grow." "And you grew," Sarah said simply. "Well, we stayed stunted. But maybe it's not too late to grow too." "It's never too late," I assured her. "Now go show that marketing firm what Sarah Morgan can do when she's not pretending to be someone else." She squared her shoulders, lifting her chin. For a moment, I saw the sister I'd admired as a child, the confident one who'd protected me from bullies, who'd taught me to braid hair and dream big. "Sarah Morgan," she repeated. "I like the sound of that better than Sarah Wellington anyway." At the lawyer's office, the atmosphere was electric. Emma and James were already there along with MedConnect's full team. Michelle had everything organized with military precision. Before we sign, Emma said, "There's something you should see, the first quarterly report from hospitals using our system." She handed me a bound report. Pages of statistics, charts, response time improvements. But what caught my eye were the personal stories. A father in Iowa who survived a heart attack because EMTs arrived 3 minutes faster. A child in Alabama whose asthma attack was managed before it became critical. A car accident victim in Montana who made it to surgery in time. "This is what we built," I said softly. "This is what you envisioned," James corrected. "I just made the code work. You made it matter." "We made it matter," I insisted. "Partnership, remember." The signing itself was anticlimactic. Papers passed around, signatures applied, notaries stamping. With each page, I thought of Mom. How proud she'd be to see her daughter choosing purpose over pure profit. "And that's it," Michelle announced finally. "MedTech Innovations is officially acquired by MedConnect. Congratulations." Champagne appeared from somewhere. Toasts were made. Emma pulled me aside during the celebration. "So what's next for you after the transition period?" "The foundation," I said without hesitation. "Getting systems to hospitals that can't afford them. Building the training programs. Making sure what we created reaches everyone who needs it." With your 15 million, you could do a lot, and she noted. With Mom's vision and 15 million, I could do everything, I corrected. She saw this future. I'm just making it real. My phone buzzed, a text from Thomas. Saw the news about Hartwell. Couldn't happen to nicer people. Proud of you, sis. Mom would be too. Then another from Jessica. William's teacher says he wrote an essay about his hero. 3 guesses who he picked. And one from Sarah. First presentation went well. They like my ideas about authentic messaging. Who knew honesty could be a marketing strategy? Your family seems to be finding their way, Emma observed, reading my expression. Slowly, I agreed. But forward is forward, even in small steps. The celebration continued, but I found myself stepping onto the balcony for air. $15 million now sat in my account, an absurd number that still felt unreal. But more real were the messages from hospitals wanting help. The stories of lives saved, the possibility of expanding access to everyone. James joined me on the balcony. Heavy thoughts for a newly minted multi-millionaire. Us just thinking about Mom, I admitted, how she'd probably say something practical like, money's just a tool, what matters is how you use it. Sounds like her, he smiled. And like you, apple tree, all that. James, I said suddenly, thank you for believing in the vision when it was just scribbles and dreams, for pivoting when we realized we were better as partners than romantic partners, for everything. Thank you for having a vision worth believing in, he replied, and for showing me that failure in one area can lead to success in another. Best failed engagement ever. We laughed, comfortable in our transformed relationship. Inside, the party continued, but out here was peace. The city spread below us, full of people who might someday need emergency help. People whose lives could be saved by what we'd built. My phone rang. William using Sarah's phone. Aunt Lynette, I forgot to tell you something important. What's that, buddy? In my essay about heroes, I said you're my hero because you help everyone even when they're mean to you. And teacher said that's what real heroes do. So, you're a real hero. Thank you, sweetheart. I managed past the lump in my throat. That means everything to me. Oh, and Megan wants to talk to you. His sister's voice came on, younger but equally earnest. Aunt Lynette. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Mommy said you save people with computers. Can you teach me? Absolutely, I promised. We'll start whenever you're ready. After they hung up, I stood on that balcony looking out at a world full of possibility. The kids saw it clearly the way kids do. Not the money or the drama or the corporate battles, just someone who helped even when it was hard. Ready to go back in, James asked. Face your public. Ready, I said. Ready to build something even bigger than what we sold. The Morgan Foundation. The Morgan Family Foundation, I corrected, because family isn't just blood. It's everyone who shows up to help, everyone who sees potential where others see problems, everyone who believes tomorrow can be better than today. We went back inside to finish celebrating the end of one chapter, but I was already thinking about the next one. Mom's foundation, Emma's expansion plans, Sarah's recovery, Thomas's fresh start, the kids' endless possibilities. The woman who'd eaten alone in the kitchen had learned to build bigger tables. The college dropout had graduated to a different kind of education. The family failure had discovered that sometimes failing at meeting others' expectations meant succeeding at exceeding your own. And somewhere in whatever came after this life, I knew Mom was smiling, not at the money or the accolades, but at the simple fact that her daughter had learned the most important lesson of all. True wealth wasn't what you accumulated, it was what you gave away.